29 ng'ezimu ku nsimbi zino bazisala ku bakozi kyokka ate ne bataziwaayo.
Kampani ene badde n'omusolo ogugibangibwa ogwa payers in hand nga gwe omusolo ogugibwa ku bakozi n'omusolo gwa income tax oguva ku magoba ga kampani.
Baba Gaming International tebasangiddwawo era ab'omusolo we batuukiddewo ng'ebyuma bye bibatunuulira. Kampuni endala eggaddwa ye Yakajimu Investments nga zino zigambibwa okuba nga ze zahajja Bibu Kajimu nga URA egamba nti kampuni 5 zizuuliddwa nga zeerimbise mu kampuni emu era nga zibangibwa obukadde 2.5.
Somugalewo ofisi mugalewo kompyuta y'amasanze mu biddeko galewo abakulu ne babategeeza bajja kujja.
URA tutegeezezza nti mu kiseera kino nga bafundikira okuggalawo omwaka balina okufuuza abo bonna babangibwa omusolo.
Era twabakkiriza basasule omusolo guno mu mpolampola mu ndagaano gye twasayininga nabo naye endagaano bagimenye. Cheeki zaabwe zibadde zibuuka tubawandiika ne tubategeeza nti cheeki zaabwe zibuuse gye musasule naye nga tebasasula. Ate
wo wano ku Kampala Kasino omusirikale wa poliisi Emmanuel Rukman avudde mu mbeera n'akuba abantu ba bulijjo omukka ogubalagala oluvannyuma lw'okukizuula nti basaze ku musaala gwe mu ngeri etategerekeka. Ono kigambibwa nti aliko ensimbi zeewola okuva mu bawozi b'ensimbi abawola poliisi wabula bwe basaze ku musaala gwe kwe kuva mu mbeera n'abakuba omukka ogubalagala. Bano bonna baganye okwogera ku kamera zaffe wabula omwogezi wa poliisi mu Kampala Patrick Onyango akakasizza nti omusirikale ono wa poliisi era n'okunoonyereza kugenda maaso. Deni Lobo Sava, NTV Akawungezi.
NTV Akawungezi. Polisi ya Namavundu e Kasangati ekutte Peter Musaazi eyayira mukyala we ow'olubuto amafuta oluvannyuma n'amukumako omuliro. Ono yamulanga kulwawo kumuggulira mu kiro bwe yali ava mu bbaala. Lavia Namudu ali mu mbeera mbi era nga kigambibwa nti bba okukwatibwa yabadde akomyewo waka n'amukaka omukwano. Ebifaananyi by'omukyalo ono byesisiwaza era y'ensonga lwaki tubikyusizza mu langi.
Eno y'embeera Namudu kyalimo yayokebwa bba emyezi 3 emabega ng'amulanga kulwawo kumuggulira mu kiro bwe yali akomyewo waka. Ebiseera ebyo Namudu yali lubuto lukulu wabula yasobola okuzaala mu ddwaliro e Mulago. Olw'ebbula ly'ensimbi yagibwa mu ddwaliro era nga kati obulwadde bumulumira waka awatali mujjanjabi.
Naye bacankala naffe mbi ezitawuka.
Yakwokesa ki?
Yayinira mafuta.
Nakukolezaako omuliro?
Nankoleza omuliro.
Musaazi Peter yatuuse obuvune ku mukazi we yali takwatibwanga okumala ebbanga eryo lyonna era nga n'olunaku lw'eggulo kigambibwa nti yayagadde okaka mukazi w'ono omukwano newankubadde ng'ali mu mbeera mbi. Endulu gye yakubye yawaliriza abasirikale ababadde balawuna ku kyalo okumudduukirira era bw'atyo n'akwatibwa.
Ogwo nagwo musango guteeka ku guno. Yavaaki oyo yasooka.
Kati batutuuka wansi tuwulire omuntu akaaba muno mu nnyumba ne tujja ne tukonkona. Bwe twakonkonye omwami ne tubuuza omukyala eyabadde mu nnyumba nti nno ki ekibaddewo nti waliwo omulwadde ali awo ate ono bba waamukuba.
Poliisi egamba nti badde ludde ng'efuna okwemulugunya okuva eri abatuuze olwa musaazi okukola effujjo ku kyalo ng'amaze okukozesa ebiragalagala.
Ate n'ekiro ekireeta obuzibu abantu bano abanywa ku biragalagala kuba nyina ennyini nayogedde nti anywa ku njaga ali amayirungi ebintu bibi nnyo.
Ate ebyo nga bizze ebbali bba abatuuze b'Emmenvu mu Busukuma baguddemu encuko basisinkanye omulambo gw'omuntu gwe bategeera mu kitundu kyabwe nga guli mu kitaba ky'omusaayi. Abatuuze bagamba nti ekifo kino kati kifuuse kattiro ng'akanyako mu mulyango olw'ensiko eriwo obulanga nyini kifo teyeefiirayo kulongoosaawo.
Kakati batuyambe bannannyitako ekibira kiveewo tufune ku mirembe osanga ekitanga bwa kino eky'amaanyi okubeera mu kifo kino.
Awo gavumenti twekubidde omulanga eri gavumenti ejje tuyambe ku bibira ebiri Emmenvu abatandise okubeera ettemu abaana ba booda bajja tandika okutya.
Abatuuze bagala ebyokwerinda mu kitundu kino binywezebwe. Omulambo poliisi egugyewo egutulawo mu ddwaliro e Mulago okwekebejjebwa.
Oli ku NTV Akawungezi. Mu mawulire amalala abagugulana mu South Sudan bolekedde okuteekebwako envumbo singa tebakomya kulwanagana. Okulabula kuno kwakoleddwa abakulembeze mu mawanga agakola omukago gwa IGAD abakuŋŋaanidde mu kibuga Addis Ababa ekya Ethiopia. Bino bye bimu ku byatuukiddwako ng'abakulu Dr. Riek Machar ne Salva Kiir bateeka omukono ku ndagaano egenderera okukomya okulwanagana.
Guno gwe mulundi ogusoose amawanga agalinanye South Sudan okuvaayo n'okulabula kuno. Abantu 19 bafiiridde mu lutalo lwa South Sudan so nga abasoba mu kakadde akalamba be bali mu kubundabunda. President Salva Kiir ne batali makambugu Riek Machar balina okugondera ebyatuukiddwako mu ndagaano eno oba si kyo kakubajuutuka. Bano balina okuteekawo gavumenti y'ekintabuli mu bbanga ly'ennaku 6 zokka.
Complete all the negotiations within the coming 60 days and then establish a transitional government of national unity.
Amawanga g'omukka gwa IGAD galabudde nti singa bano kibalema go gaakuteeka mu nkola endagaano eno.
And that will have different options including sanctions and punitive actions.
Ng'ojjako okukola gavumenti eyawamu era kyakkanyizibwako nti wano bateekewo embeera eneesobozesa abagabi b'obuyambi okubutuusa gye babwetaaga. Gavumenti ya South Sudan wamu n'abayeekera buli ludda luze lulumiriza lunnaalwo okuzimula endagaano y'emirembe ssaako kwagala okulwana otatadde.
Ate okuvaako ebusukuma omubaka wa gavumenti e Kasangati Hajara Namagogwe ayingidde mu nkaayana mu butakkaanya obuliwo ku ttaka wakati w'omusumba w'ekkanisa emu ne bamulekwa abagamba nti omukuza waabwe yatunda ettaka lyabwe. Bano baludde nga beezooba mu mbuga z'amateeka.
Abaana b'omugenzi Edward Kalule baludde nga beewuuba mu kkooti ku nsonga z'ettaka eryatundibwa omukuza waabwe Paul Kasujja. Ettaka lino liri Busukuma okumpi n'Eggayaaza nga liwera yiika 8 n'ekitundu. Omusumba omwe Kasangati George Sempiira ye yagula ettaka lino okuva ku Kasujja mu 2008. Okuva olwo bano babadde mu kkooti nga baleppuka.
Tugenda okufuna obutuufu bw'ekintu nti Kasujja yatunda ekibanja ekitali kike nga bamututte Kasangati. Biseera bwe waliyo omukyala Ssemakula. Mwami Kasujja n'ayogera nti mu butuufu natunda ekibanja ky'abaana tekyali kyange naye nja baddizaawo.
Ne twebuuza ku bantu bonna abataka era ne nannyini ttaka ne batulaga nti awo wa Muzeeyi Kasujja.
Aradisi w'e Kasangati Namagogwe Hajara ensonga zino kati asazeewo okuziyingiramu.
Tupime nga tumaze okukkaanya eri zibadde eka 2 buli omu eka emu na wano tugabane kyenkani.
Atuuzizza enjuyi zombi era olukiiko lugenza okuggwa nga bakaayana bakkaanyizza ettaka baligabanyeemu omusumba asigazeeko ekitundu n'abaana nabo bafuneko oluuyi.
Tetusuubira ate kuwulira buzibu bwonna, twagala mukwatagane eno eri famire emu.
Ekisinga byonna tewaawo okusomoozagana, tewaawo okulumbagana, tewaawo okulwanagana.
Tukyagenda mu maaso ne NTV akawongeza eddakiika ziri 12 eziyise ku ssaawa emu temuvaawo. Tugende mu Bulango ate tulabe ekitundu ekyokubiri.
Naye osanga abantu balimye naye tebalina butale.
Bajeti ya 2014-15 esomwa nkya abantu abawansi essuubi bagirinamu ttono ddala. Tosubwa emboozi ya Charles Byekwaso eyaweerezanga omupiira ku rediyo mu myaka gye'78. Tovaawo.
Ekifo ekimu kissa Wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli Lwakuna butereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
Tukyagenda mu maaso ne NTV akawungeezi. Olunaku lw'enkya embalirira y'eggwanga y'omwaka 2014-15 lwe yanjulirwa eggwanga. Abalina amakolero amatonotono bagamba nti essira gavumenti yandiritadde kukyakendeeza ku bisale by'amasannyalaze ebyekanamye ensangi zino. Bo abantu aba bulijjo bagamba nti tebagirina musobe.
Bannamakolera amatono bagamba nti basanze obuzibu bungi naddala ku bikwatagana n'amasannyalaze ng'ate gabbula. Kino bagamba nti gavumenti ekitunulemu mu mbalirira y'omwaka guno.
Weesanga nti bizinesi yo tesobola tambula bulungi nga tulina amasannyalaze. Oluusi n'amasannyalaze gayinza okubaawo naye ng'ebbeeyi ya waggulu nnyo. So twandiyagadde gavumenti yeyongere okuteeka ensimbi mu sekita eno.
Ono agamba nti okunogera ekizibu kino eddagala, gavumenti esaana okuyigiriza bannayuganda okugeekolera.
Omuntu ayinza okukola amasannyalaze okuva mu gym ne gaddukanya bizinesi ye yonna yonna.
Walugembe era agamba nti kyetaagisa gavumenti okusomesa abamakolera amatono ebikwatana n'okutumbula omutindo gw'ebintu bye bakola okusobola okugaziya akatale.
Gavumenti yandirabye nti mu bulimi eyamba nnyo abantu okulaba nti bagatta omutindo kwe bwe bakola. Ze ntambudde nnyo mu ggwanga naye osanga abantu balimye naye tebalina butale. Naye obutale bw'ebyo ebintu ebigattiddwako omutindo weebuli.
Bannayuganda naddala bamufuna mpola bakyagenda mu maaso n'otutegeeza ng'ebikwatagana ne bajeti bwe batabitegeera bulungi nga n'olwekyo essuubi lyabwe ttono.
Emirundi egisinga obungi weetegereze nnyo abagisoma naye bennyini tebamanyi bajeti kyeki. Otunuulira omuntu ensonga ezikwata ku muntu owa wansi ziba tezikolwako. Ne baddira ssente bo bennyini ze baagala okwewa naddala gavumenti eno zeeyagala okwewa okukola ebyayo byetunuulira ng'ensonga.
Enguudo mbi nfunda amalwaliro bwe tugenda mu malwaliro amu tuvaayo nga tetukoleddwako.
Bajeti eno sigisulamu kyamakulu nnyo okuggyako bajeti ya Uganda eyongeza mwenge sigala naye abasomesa tebabawongeza musaala.
Ffe abantu ba wansi tugifunamu katono oba ne ssente ezimu ziba swindled zibira mu bajeti. Sisuubira kyamaanyi.
Gavumenti etasobola kukola magoba tesobola kusoma bajeti. Lwaki? Yeetundako amakolero gonna, yeetundako ebintu byalivaamu ssente, etunuulidde kunyuunyuuta muntu wa wansi. Nze omuntu wa wansi ntambulira ku mafuta. Bajeti yogenda giranga teyogera ku mafuta, egenda kwogera ku gasimwa. Agasimwa ffe ge tutamanyi.
Ffe nga ffe abavubuka buli basoma bajeti ffe abavubuka batwerabira twasigalira kubeera awo wetutyo ekitegeera kati kwegamba ffe eggwanga twalirekera Mukama y'anaamanya era y'alimanya ebiddirira.
Ivan Kimuli Kigozi, NTV Akawungezi.
Bannasengo beegasse ku bannabuweekula mu kabuguumiriro ke balimu nga beetegekera Ssaabasajja Ronald Mwenda Mutebi II agenda okuggulawo empaka z'amasaza ga Buganda ku Lwomukaaga luno e Mubende. Ebiyitirirwa n'embuutu nakati bivuga eruddeeyo.
Bannabuweekula nga bakyagenda mu maaso n'okukyacanca wamu n'okwetegeka nga bazimba ebiyitirirwa n'olwaleero bongedde okubiyooyoota. Embuutu zisiiba zisindogoma nga n'abatunda ebintu ebyenjawulo okuli ebifaananyi bya Kabaka tebalutumiddwa mwana. Ttiimu yaabwe naye egenda mu maaso n'okutendekebwa mu kisaawe kino. Abamu ku bakungu abali ku ttiimu eno bagamba nti balinze kadde kokka.
Tutegese bulungi nnyo naddala ku kisaawe abagenda okukuba emipiira gy'amasaza. Era olaba buli muntu ali excited, ngoma zivuddeyo, kuzimba ebiyitirirwa tugenda mu maaso. Abalina obusobozi n'obubuzi tugenda kutandika okulya.
Yeruweekula agamba nti abantu ba Ssaabasajja mu kitundu kino basanyufu bya nsusso era ng'Omutanda baakumukuumira ku nsalo ya Ssingo. Ono ayongedde okukoowoola amasaza amalala gonna okweyiwa ebuweekula ku Lwomukaaga lwa wiiki eno.
N'olwekyo nkunga bannabuweekula mwenna mujje muveeyo mwanirize Omutanda waffe ng'agenda kutuuka ku kisaawe ku Luzzi Nabakazi.
Kyokka Bannassingo gye bali nabo bawera nkolokooto nga bagamba nti bwe kataligirya.
naye twagala okulabula abeebuweekula nti buli muntu yenna agenda okuyimirira mu kkubo okuziyiza ttiimu ya Ssingo oyo yeerimba tuli bakukuba buli kiramu kyonna.
Bingi ebize byogerwa nti ffe tugoba maaso ga Ssaabasajja naye ku mulundi guno buweekula batwerindirire tugenda kubakuba.
Bano nabo bali mu kwesunga mutanda era nga balabiddwako nga bali mu kuzimba biyitirirwa. Ttiimu yaabwe eri mu kutendekebwa okwakaasa mmemme.
Dere engabo tudda nayo obuwanguzi bwaffe kabaka ne bwatukenja wonna ffe tumaze okutenda.
Essaza ly'e Ssingo litandise n'empaka z'obugaali ez'amagombolola agali mu ssaza lino ezategekeddwa mu kwenda Abubeka Magala era nga gye bigweredde ng'eggombolola y'e Kalangaalo yeewangudde. Embuto eruuyi eno nayo zisiiba zisindogoma.
Olumu bw'owuliriza empeereza y'omupiira ku zi radio ennaku zino tolemwa kwewuunya. Kino kiri bwe kityo kubanga abamu ku baweereza batuuka ekiseera ne beerabira kye bakola era ggoolo ne zinywa nga tebategedde. Abalala kano baakafuula kadaala kakutumira abantu baabwe. Nga twetegekera ekikopo ky'ensi yonna ekitandika enkya kati kutuuseeko emboozi ya Charles Byekwaso eyali omuweereza w'omupiira ku Radio Uganda eyaweerezanga omupiira mu biseera ebyo neteeka eggwanga lyonna ku bunkenke.
Omuganda agamba nti ebirwa byerabirwa amalusu gafuuka engeregeze ne bannayuganda bangi abanyumirwanga eddoboozi lya musajja mukulu Charles Byekwaso ng'aweereza programs ez'enjawulo ku radio y'eggwanga oba oli awo baamwerabira dda. Byekwaso atemera mu gy'obukulu 68 yasinga okwatiikirira mu mulimu gw'okuweereza omupiira ku radio y'eggwanga. Mu kiseera kino Byekwaso yawummuzibwa gavumenti era n'addayo ku butaka bwabwe Kabunga ekisangibwa e Namutamba mu disitulikiti y'e Mityana. Byekwaso yatujjukizaamu engeri gy'aweerezangamu omupiira.
The ball now is Ashimukasa. Ashimukasa to Tom Rwanga. Tom Rwanga down to Nsereko. Nsereko dribbles, takes back to Kiganda. Kiganda up front running is Pole Owuma. Pole Owuma, Nsereko sees him. Nsereko passes through ball. That's a goal. That's a killer.
Ono yeegatta ku Radio Uganda ng'ava mu High Court gye yamala ekiseera ng'akolera. Naye abaffe kye kyamusikiriza.
Omugenzi Mike Sebalu awamuwulirako. Gwe nagendanga naye nga naye ndi faani we bwe ntyo Mike Sebalu ekiseera kyatuuka n'agenda ku TV na ku Radio Uganda tekuli muntu. Neŋŋamba mukama we tikangezeeko nagezaako kwali mwaka 73.
Ensangi zino kyangu abaweereza omupiira okuva ku mulamwa naye abaffe ye Byekwaso yakikolanga atya.
Kati bwe wagiranga boodi newaga nti noita ono ali eno tugiyita control room nomuyita hello gundi this is Kampala in Algiers naga mwambie Kwaso tukuwulira bulungi ng'omanya nti kakati ndi Uganda ng'omanya nti president ajja ampulira mukyala wange ampulira taata ampulira kankolera abo ogeno kulanga tofaayo nnyo gandi nkoledde bangi nnyo okolera onoonye omukwano gwono gandi kamuweereza omupiira ategeere.
Omupiira ogwaliwo mu 1978 ogw'ekikopo kya Africa Uganda mwe yeetaba agujjukiranga ogwabaddewo eggulo.
Twalinga omupiira ogwaliko ensi nnyingi nnyo ba BBC kwe bali ab'ensi zonna bali buyumba mwadika kubiko nga lutalo. Samusenze n'asigala najja ne babeera wano ku gundi ne ku line eno center n'akasajja ka opokunti ke kali namba 9 waabwe nkajjukira bulungi ne babeera nga bali ku line akali kirunda bagenzi baleeta amakoona nga bomanyi agire bali omusajja bwe yafuna omupiira yagusazisa mu maaso eri nga bali babiri opokunti ne Kasinga Samusenze Paul Sali okugenda okugira kamubuusa omupiira bwe kati.
Ono yali omu ku bannamawulire abaaliwo nga John Akibo ayanirizibwa mu kitiibwa ng'ava e Germany okuwangulira Uganda omudaali gwa zaabu ogwasooka mu mpaka z'Olympics.
Buzege baatuma entebe okumusinkana era lwakuba tewali records zikuumibwa. Interviews namukolako nga yakalinnya kyali kirungi nnyo abantu bamuwerekera abantu bangi kubanga ekyali kisoose.
Olw'enkola ye ennungi yaweebwa omukisa okugenda e Nairobi gye yasomera diploma mu by'amawulire n'avaayo ng'ayongedde okubanguka mu by'okuweereza omupiira ku radio. Wakati mu mboozi yaffe atujjukiza nti talabanga mukulembeze wa Uganda ayagala bya mizannyo ng'omugenzi Idi Amin bwe yajagala.
Amin yayagala emizannyo era we nayingirira awo ettiimu ya Uganda ey'omupiira ekyokulabirako yali nnungi nnyo mu East Africa wano.
Mu 1978 nga Amin ye president wa Uganda lwe yasembayo okwetaba mu mpaka z'ekikopo kya Africa. Ku mulembe gw'Oboto owookubiri Byekwaso yakwatibwa n'asibwa mu kkomera e Makindye nga bamuteebereza okukolagana n'abayeekera ba Museveni, naye era enkola ye ey'emirimu yamununula okuva mu njegere z'ekkomera.
Kigenda okunzigyamu era gwali mupiira nawo gwali Tanzania eyo kakati nga teri era gwali gwa Sekafa nga bagamba teri commentator yagenzi kakati bagati bwera mutanga tewali commentator nga bagamba nti Charles Byekwaso nga nyoti abuuza Charles Byekwaso ali yalagawa nti gyali nga bampita.
Wadde ng'ebyo byali bityo, Byekwaso agamba nti yenyumiriza nnyo mu kiseera kye yamala ng'aweereza eggwanga.
Kwegamba olw'okuba radio yaliwo emu ya ggwanga lyonna era nga bw'ogambye twali celebrity mu kiseera ekyo essebo nga bulungi nnyo buli omu ng'akwagala ayagala okubuuza kyonojjako dde waffe nga batuwa ebintu twabirya twabirya essebo.
Yasemba okuweereza omupiira mu 1994 nga Uganda ezannya ne Kenya mu mupiira ogwaggulawo ekisaawe ky'e Namboole. Okuva olwo taddangamu kuyingira Namboole olw'ensonga z'agamba nti ziri kumpi nnyo n'omutima gwe.
Kibi nnyo administration y'omupiira omuzannyo gw'omupiira nze muli mpulira mwoyo gwange mbi ddala.
Mu 2005 Byekwaso yawumuzibwa ku mulimu oluvannyuma lwa Radio Uganda ne Uganda Television okwegatta ne zifuuka UBC. Mu 2007 yasala wadde ewaabwe Namutamba era nga kati ali akasiimo oba pensoni emuweebwa gavumenti buli mwezi. Ono yazaala abaana 6 omu n'amufaako era awakabeerawo n'abakozi kubanga mukyala we ali Bulaaya. Omuganda agamba nti omuyizi akumma n'akunyumiza. Naffe wano olunaku lwa leero n'oluvannyuma lw'emboozi gye tubadde naye empanvu ne mukadde waffe Charles Byekwaso eyayitimuka ennyo mu mulimu gw'okuweereza ku mpewo naddala okuweereza omupiira. Tufunye ekyokuyiga nti omulimu guno ogw'amawulire mulungi nnyo kubanga guyinza okukuleetera ebirungi bingi naye ebiseera ebimu guyinza okuba ogw'obulabe gy'oli singa oba teweegendereza ngeri gy'ogukolamu. Ku lwa NTV wano e Kabungo Namutamba nze Sam Mpoza.
Mu mizannyo ng'ebula ssaawa busaawa ekikopo ky'ensi yonna okutandika mu ggwanga lya Brazil essira teriteereddwa ku bazannyi bokka wabula n'abatendesi. Katunuulira abamu ku batendesi abaliyo n'emisaala gye bafuna omwaka.
Fabio Capello nga yatendeka ttiimu ya Russia ye mutendesi asingako abeetayo mu kikopo ky'ensi yonna okusasula obulungi. Ono ng'afuna obukadde bwa pawundi za Bungereza 7 omwaka ng'ezaako bwe buwumbi 28. Addirira okusasula obulungi ye mutendesi wa Bungereza Roy Hodgson ng'ono afuna obukadde 3.5 bwa pawundi omwaka mu zaakuno bwe buwumbi nga 14. Abatendesi abalala 7 abasasula obulungi nga bano bafuna wakati w'obuwumbi 8 ne 10 mu ssente za Uganda buli mwaka kuliko Cesar Pradel owa Italy, Luis Felipe Scolari, Joaquim Low owa Germany ne Vincent de Bosque owa Spain. Ate abatendesi abasasulwa bulungi nga n'okusinga bannansi muli Miguel Herrera owa Mexico, James Kwesi Appiah owa Ghana, Niko Kovac owa Croatia, Safet Susik owa Bosnia ne Stephen Keshi owa Nigeria nga bano bafuna wakati w'obukadde 5 n'olwenda mu ssente za Uganda buli mwaka.
Ye eyaliko omuzannyi wa Argentina Hernan Crespo agamba nti gavumenti ye esaanidde etegekewo ennyonyi kika kya namunkanga eneebuusa ttiimu y'eggwanga okuva mu Brazil singa enaaba ewangudde ekikopo ky'ensi yonna. Argentina y'emu ku ttiimu ezisongeddwamu olunwe okwetikka ekikopo kino.
Argentina egenze mu Brazil ng'emu ku ttiimu ezisongeddwamu ennyo olugalo okuwangula ekikopo kino. Yasemba okuwangula mu mwaka gwa 1986. Yaliko omuzannyi wa ttiimu y'eggwanga Hernan Crespo asabye gavumenti ye etekewo helicopter eneebuusizawo ttiimu y'eggwanga amangu ddala singa eneeba ewangudde ekikopo kino. Crespo era ayogedde ku World Cup ya 2022 gye yeetabamu ng'eyasinga okuba embi ennyo eri eggwanga lye. Argentina yakutandika empaka zino nga 15 omwezi guno bw'eneeba esamba ne Bosnia. Obugumu nti bagenda okuwangula empaka zino babujja ku kyabazannyi ab'amannya be balina.
NTV, turning on your world.
Sometimes children have amazing ideas, but they can lead to tough stains. And for tough stains, there's new Omo Fast Action. Its super fast cleaning technology removes stains fast. New Omo, no one removes tough stains faster. Today's highlight with
Nice and Lovely Body Lotion.
We have been beefing for the last year until we realized we were broke, so we decided to buy beans.
Yes. Mwebale kwati mulire business signal. Business signal wagwan.
Uganda.
Abera bana basomesa abolugono mai no bakuba emigo. Nagamba nti, okay, what is photosynthesis? Ne wanika mwende emikono gyo abamanyi n'abatamanyi. Yaba akimanya agamba, okay, each and everybody are going to give me answers in an akam.
Chicho tegeza.
Answers agala mukama.
You bring out the best in me.
New and improved Nice and Lovely Body Lotion. The 24-hour skin moisturizer that's your skin's best friend.
The best in me.
And the change of government won't stop a thing. I've run out of fingers counting the number of multinationals setting up here. What about the 3 companies that announced their plans to launch last week? I say they're shopping. Me, I'd be looking to sell. At what price? More. Much more. I don't know who you are or how you know these things, but one thing I'm sure of, you're in the wrong job. Here, call me tomorrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to hear more from you.
Are you ready for your big break? The East African, understanding the region.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Today, June 12th, 2014, will go down in history as the day Honorable Maria Chiwanuka, the Minister of Finance, standing before the nation and reading out the budget for the next financial year. NTV is ready at the Serena Hotel to make sure that we bring you the proceedings of the events here. Stay glued to your telly and let's get started with the question of the day on Morning at NTV. Good morning. Well, the comments and of course can keep coming through Facebook and Twitter, and of course the SMS platform is also open. Make sure you get there. The first 5 respondents will each walk away with the mag from Morning at NTV. For now, let's cross over to Mabel at the studios at the International Conference Center to bring us the stories that are making headlines. Good morning, Mabel. Is it the same feeling with you there, the budget and your expectations this morning?
Yes, it is. I really wonder what is in store for me, because I live year in, year out, just looking at a few things. But I hope this time I'll pay keen attention to what the budget has for me as an individual. Welcome to Morning at NTV. Thank you for joining us today on air and online, a day that World Cup actually begins, and I'm wearing the colors of the team I support. Well, let's take a look at some of the stories making headlines. Sam Kutesa has been elected as the UN General Assembly President. We will also be finding out what MPs are expecting in the 2014-15 budget, and a 45-year-old man in Mulago is seeking for funds for a kidney transplant. Kutesa was elected in an acclamation vote as the President of the United Nations General Assembly last night. This amidst opposition from critics who have launched campaigns blocking his presidency, alleging that his political record is tainted and that Uganda criminalizes homosexuality. Solomon Seranja has been following this story.
Uganda's Foreign Affairs Minister Sam Kutesa is expected to be voted as the president of the 69th session of the United Nations General Assembly at the UN headquarters in New York. Kutesa will take over from John Ashe from Antigua and Barbuda for a non-ballot vote from the 168 members of the General Assembly. If he's inaugurated, Kutesa will assume his duties at the beginning of the session in September, assisted by 21 vice presidents. This all comes amidst international criticism about his track record, allegedly marred by corruption scandals. Among other duties, Kutesa will be expected to declare the opening and closing of each plenary meeting of the session, direct the discussions in the plenary meeting, ensure observance of the rules of procedure, put to question and announce the decisions, rule on points of order and subject these rules, have a complete control of the proceedings at any meeting. Kutesa shall not also vote on any issue.
The United Nations is basically made up of 5 key organs. That is the UN Security Council, the UN General Assembly, the Economic and Social Council, and of course the Stewardship Council and the International Court of Justice. But Sam Kutesa will be presiding over the UN General Assembly as president. Now, the UN General Assembly is basically made up of 163 member states from different countries, from Europe, Africa, Asia, and the other continents. But this is the deliberative and policy-making organ of the UN, where people sit and deliberate on all issues besides peace and security. But just to bring you up close to the General Assembly, it has 6 major committees which go and sit, discuss, and find resolutions that are presented for plenary, which will be, of course, presided over by Honorable Sam Kutesa.
Key in the 69th session is the discussion on the post-2015 development agenda and the high-level stock-taking event slated for early September. Please. Olaro Tunu, a former president of the UN Security Council, explained that the resolutions made from the plenary discussions are not necessarily binding to the member states.
The decisions of the General Assembly are not mandatory. They are not obligatory. They don't issue orders. But those decisions which are called resolutions, they help to shape international opinion. They are persuasive weight. People pay attention to them because the whole world gathered and pronounced on it.
But will Kutesa's presidency at the UN General Assembly have any bearing on Africa's state of affairs?
The difference a president makes is when is the personal capacity they bring. It is their intellectual diplomatic contribution. It is their creativity in solving certain problems which may arise. It is the moral voice that they bring to the table that can give them a certain influence, and thus can bring honor to the country of origin or to the continent of origin.
As the 65-year-old prepares to take his new position, there are still dissenting voices that are critical of his presidency.
He's a foreign affairs minister, yes, but he has a checkered history. When you type on the internet, what comes out on his name are not good things. There's nothing praising him.
More than 6,000 people signed an online petition urging the UN member states to block Kutesa on grounds that he comes from a country that criminalizes homosexuality. Solomon Serwanja, NTV.
As the government prepares to read the budget for the financial year 2014-15 today, what are the expectations of the members of parliament? The needs are varied from agriculture to health and infrastructural development.
Broken social services. Many schools, people are sitting on the floor, kids are sitting on the floor, there are not enough teachers, not enough scholastic materials. The hospitals, virtually all hospitals are in a state of total disrepair. No water, some no power, no drugs, no medical staff. I would want a budget to fix that. Because you cannot go even build another hospital when the old ones are not functioning.
We have problems with the quality of education. We have attained the quantity-wise. By UPE and USE we have quantities. But we must not transform, take advantage of these quantities into quality. Let's consider the question of the ratio of the teacher to the pupil. It must be improved. The issue of facilities, including teaching aids and enhancing buildings, because we have built a number of schools, but the coverage is still minimal.
The issue of power generation to help in industrialization, because once we have these industries, then people will have to get employment, and others who are not able to get employed, they can create employment for themselves through small-scale industries and some small work that they can do. Of course, the other area that I would love to see worked on is the issue again of the roads, because even if you talk about agriculture, once the roads are not good, then they may not be able to market their produce.
The concluding financial year budget was grounded in effecting socio-economic transformation. While many questions still linger on whether that goal was achieved or not, players in different sectors are raising even more expectations in the next financial year's budget. Some of these are arising out of the unhonored promises of the 2013-14 financial year budget.
Just a day to the presentation of the financial year 2014-2015 budget, Ugandans across the board expect the budget speech to deliver plans that will drive growth in the face of slowed activity. Experts specifically assert that as government prepares to spend on priority areas, focus will be on meeting revenue deficits.
I expect the government to have increased spending in all those sectors: infrastructure, in oil, in agriculture, in health, in education. But also remember that the government has not been able to meet their revenue targets. So I expect public spending to increase. And when public spending increases, it has an effect on interest rates. It has an effect on foreign exchange rates. It's going to distort the interest rates at which banks are giving out money, and it's also going to distort the investment profile.
According to the Budget Framework Paper 2014-2015, the Uganda Revenue Authority tax target will be moved up by 20% to 9.8 trillion shillings. This, as the business community, spells even harder times because it might lead to higher taxes, and many expect it rescinded to the final budget document.
With the strategy the government has used for the last 5 years, every time there is increment in taxes on the key areas that affect the final consumer prices, and that affects traders, and some traders are losing business, others are getting out of other businesses, shifting. So we don't want something like that to happen, and that's why you see revenue authorities experiencing shortfalls in tax collection, because the amount of working capital they have now cannot buy a certain number of units. They have to spend more money, and part of it is going for taxes. So let the government try to be friendly by cutting down, not too low, because we are going to spend money.
Though there is an increase in agriculture sector funding of 440 billion next financial year compared to 2013-2014 allocation of 382 shillings, observers think that the sector still suffers an absence of structural reforms and less funding than what is required if it is to play a central role in poverty reduction and economic growth.
We would want to see a more extensive reform of extension systems in Uganda, and how that really then relates to the outcomes that the farmers actually expect the President in his State of the Nation address spoke about how agriculture has grown at 1.5%. In the previous year, it actually grew at 3%. So that's a downfall. So we would want to see strategies that are going to ensure that actually agriculture, which employs the majority of Ugandans, is going to perform better.
And as government continues to allocate more money in infrastructure and energy sectors, experts in industry development think that to realize growth in this sector, focus should be put on giving more funding to small and medium enterprises development.
But our small-scale manufacturers are struggling with issues of packaging, issues of branding, with issues of penetrating markets, with issues of research, where do you take your products, with issues of tests, what does the market want? And with issues really of competition, because in certain countries they use certain laws to ensure that they block products from Uganda from accessing those markets. So we hope that government can aggressively try to address this, in addition to what I've already mentioned: infrastructure, agriculture, ICT, and also aspects of skills and human resource development. Because as a country, this is our greatest resource. So if government can invest money in practical, hands-on training for our people.
Even then, the health sector faces a challenge of attracting key medical human resource personnel, a factor which is causing persistent service delivery gaps in health facilities.
We would want to see more money provided for drugs. The citizens say that when they go to health centers, they actually get prescriptions and then they are told to go to the clinic and to the pharmacies and buy the drugs. So if there are no drugs at health centers, however much you've recruited personnel, then it has to be followed up with the drugs being provided.
One 45-year-old man in Mulago who has been saving to raise about 80 million shillings for a kidney transplant in India has now put it on hold. This is after the hearing of Mulago Hospital's plan to open a kidney transplant center. In partnership with Yashoda Hospitals in India, the National Referral Hospital will carry out its first transplant in October this year.
He takes his tea in minimal sips, in the smallest of cups. It is what the disease has reduced him to. 45-year-old Ernest Mugisha has been living on a strict diet since December 2013, when he was diagnosed with a diseased kidney. The worst part, however, has been the money spent each week on dialysis.
I parade, you buy, there is a drug for blood, there is for hypertension, and then paying for the dialysis session, which is 60,000. So adding it all, it becomes 300,000
each week. Ernest does dialysis once a week out of the recommended 3 times because it's what he can afford. Otherwise, he would be spending close to 1 million shillings, about $400 each week. It is risky for his well-being.
You cannot do dialysis once, even twice. You do it with a lot of restriction of what you eat, so that you actually don't over-accumulate the toxins and the waste product and water, of course.
Even then, dialysis comes with disadvantages.
See, if somebody is on a dialysis, there's a lot of wear and tear. His health keeps deteriorating despite giving the best dialysis 3 sessions every week.
Dr. Kiran Sashi, a senior nephrologist from Yashoda Hospital in India, says a transplant is recommended.
The cost of keeping somebody on dialysis, say for 5 years, when you compare with the cost of keeping somebody with a transplant for 5 years, the transplant works out much cheaper.
For this, however, Ernest now desperately needs 80 million shillings, a little over $30,000 to go to India.
Currently, we have over 65 patients who are undergoing dialysis, and naturally these would have to transit. We need actually transit to kidney transplant.
Ernest is one of them and is one of the lucky Ugandans according to the revelations by the ED at the Mulago Referral Hospital. In collaboration with the Yashoda Hospital in India, a center specializing in kidney and other organ transplants, many Ugandans who suffer kidney disease will be a happier lot.
In October 2014, we hope a specialist team will start carrying out kidney transplant here at Mulago Hospital.
It will be cheaper as well.
There are people who will be helped completely at 0, okay? 0, you know 0? It will range from 0 to the contribution of about to 6 million.
Now, with the signing of the memorandum between Mulago Hospital and Yashoda to seal the partnership that will see to the transplant unit open, Ernest can hardly wait for October 2014 to get here.
You can pay is 0 shillings to 6 million shillings.
Wow, that's a miracle. That's a relief. It's amazing.
Amazing indeed for the nearly 1,000 patients who flock Mulago with kidney disease, with a greater percentage living because of the cost. Plans are already underway with the Ashura team training health officials in Mulago about kidney transplants. Oblivious of this partnership, Ernest has been the first patient to get worked on by the Indian specialists.
Actually, we have been doing dialysis here. We are going to see dialysis being done here, you know.
In the recent past, the hospital has made progress in handling kidney disease after increasing the number of machines for dialysis, artificial kidneys, from 2 to 22.
Adequately. If you concentrate on controlling hypertension and treating diabetes, so most of the times you are successful in decreasing the incidence of kidney diseases. Because these two comprise to around 60 to 75% of the kidney diseases.
Risk factors of the disease include risky lifestyles like tobacco use, unhealthy diets, lack of exercise and excessive use of alcohol. Florence Alimba, NTV in Mulago Hospital.
You're still watching Morning at NTV this Thursday, the day the budget will be read by the Finance Minister, Maria Chiwanuka. We now cross over to the gentlemen who are at Kampala Serena's Victoria Hall this morning for the press review. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Simon.
Yes, a very good morning, Mabel. We are waking up to an interesting day in the world affairs. The Minister of Finance of Uganda read to us our national budget for the financial year 2014-2015. And this, of course, will be resonating across all the other East African countries. If you're just joining us, it's morning. What will be happening at about 2 o'clock?
Chairs are too comfortable. Chairs are too comfortable.
I don't know what happens normally around this area.
No wonder in this part of the country, yes, we are in a not very familiar turf, and yes, we are simulating what will be happening in this very auditorium in a matter of hours. We'll be breaking it down for you. What are we looking at in terms of the budget this morning? What do we have, folks, in the other newspapers?
Yeah, of course, a lot of talk about the budget. Donors are cutting down on their funding and so on. I hope we can be a lot more frugal as government, reduce on the expenditures. You know, the challenge usually is, you know, as we say together, so that at the end of the day we move together collectively.
I am trying to read into your statement. I hope you're not saying they should increase the price of beer or cigarettes
in this country. Those key areas should continue to be financed.
But you see, everything is the priority.
But the president did mention 4 areas. I did not quite so much mention issues of social services, like, you know, provision of chief the police saying, your vehicle is not roadworthy. But I've always asked them, for me, I find the roads not car worthy. I mean, I don't even see why my vehicle should be pounding the streets of Kampala, for example, or other parts of the country. So, and obviously, there needs to be the revamping of the railway. I've had so much talk about the railway, and I think it's high time this came to play. And we're not talking about Trans-East African railway lines only.
But that's going to be a one way. We need to, like someone says, an internal one, you know, because you see the jams that you see all over the place.
And also,
because our transportation system is broken down.
Do we actually need the railway now?
We do.
If we sink in money, how much?
Okay,
how
perhaps
much
we should begin to plan for it. Because we lose lots of money. There's a firm that did research on how much money is lost every day, courtesy of jams. I forget when that was done, and
but it must give
some stupendous figure. I said,
yeah, but you see, we are looking at a city that is looking forward to creating cable overseas, you mean high flying cars. I want to call them high flying cars that are running on cables across the country. So I do not know. Anyway, we'll wait to listen to what the budget speech will have to.
But I want to see something done again critically on agriculture. We keep just talking about it. Agriculture employs 60 plus people in this people in this country, and we are doing little. People go to their gardens with the hose and we expect they're going to produce, and then we export.
Yeah, but you see, my argument has always been we should not so much expect the government to do much of this. Because you see, you know, for you to be a frugal agriculturalist, I mean, one, we are blessed with the best weather.
Yeah, but
climate.
It's not going to
we
kill
are blessed
the land
with the best soils that there can be. And I'm telling you, one can till their land starting with a hand hoe and they graduate straight
but
to
you see,
plow.
that listens to how much you produce. Look, there's a time government talked about having, I think, a tractor in every sub-county or that kind of thing. That's not taken off. You know, if you can have that, these guys can hire it, use it, and then it keeps moving.
Listen, this country, for the most part, many of the vegetables in this country, carrots, beetroots, cabbages, come from my area where I come from. How feasible is it that you're going to use a tractor to
if we mechanize it, we'll produce a lot more beer to export a lot more.
I want you to understand the topography of Kigezi, for example, where I come from.
So, well, some places no, but a good number of other places, you realize
if we have been able to feed this country on vegetables ad infinitum all these years without a break, it is just our own ingenuity that possibly will not take us places. So I think beyond looking at government for arms, it all starts with you. I think we're a lazy bunch for the most part.
And I've also asked you, as far as agriculture is concerned, yes, it employs more than 60%, but how much of that percentage actually says I am doing agriculture strictly for business? Most of us are doing it because
and you're talking about becoming a food basket for the region and beyond. We shouldn't just produce subsistently.
We have to eat,
we should produce, yes, let's eat, but can we have a lot more for selling? It would put a lot of food to
well, without preempting much of the discussion that will take place in the big story this morning, I think I'm flipping through the Daily Monitor this morning and I'm asking myself, is this yesterday's Daily Monitor or there's something that the Daily Monitor is missing out? For a Ugandan to ascend to the highest level at the United Nations as President of the United Nations General Assembly, and I can't find that story.
Probably somewhere in international early edition.
Well, maybe I should look at somewhere between the horoscopes.
Yeah,
maybe. Maybe I should look between the horoscopes and sports. But clearly, I would have expected that. Well, I am not Malcolm Gibson, but I would have expected that such a story of magnanimous ascent, unless of course there is something that sports. It's a message that's being sent out. Clearly, I would have expected that the Daily Monitor this morning reports to Ugandans that indeed one of our very own. I mean, you all didn't so much like him, well, especially those of you who thought that the man was riddled with a lot of malfunctions in terms of governance. But clearly, the world has saved you from him and made him President of the United Nations.
Yeah, that's why they're probably saying good riddance. I don't know. Look, there's a time I was speaking to a bunch of guys. I think they wanted to go for elected positions and that kind of thing. I told them, you men, if your leadership fails at home, don't export it elsewhere. Many Ugandans will probably replicate this and say, look, this gentleman has not done very well locally.
I can tell you. I strongly disagree with you. You may have your own issues against him in terms of his ability to always attract corruption scandals around him that have never stuck on him. But as far as running the docket of foreign affairs,
but you see, Simon, it's just like you meet somebody in Europe who will say this government has delivered a great deal.
Let me just make a point.
Opinions are like noses. That is your opinion. This is my opinion.
Joel, I'm telling you from a point of information. For 5 years, and this is a fact here, for 5 years of my career, worked in diplomatic service while this man was at the helm of foreign affairs. I can tell you without a fear of contradiction, you would never have had a better foreign affairs minister as Sam Kutesa. And I believe,
just like these Changwazi girls, these Anites are saying we can never have a better president than His Excellency President Museveni, and I beg to disagree. This country has 37 million Ugandans.
Disagree or you
very
not.
Potential.
The problem, the challenge you have, Joel, is that you're stuck with that sad reality. I wouldn't be in your position. I wouldn't strongly disagree over a reality for 5 years.
Joel, you talked about exporting our failed leadership to the international community, but
I don't know whether you sense the high sense of these cynics I see on cyberspace. Well, I saw some of them running roughshod, campaigning him and all that. Congratulations.
By the way, I'm saying let's give him a chance. I do not think he's done a good job here in Uganda. I don't think so, but let's give him a chance. I hope he will deliver wherever he's been posted at the UN.
Africa, Uganda lobbied and Africa backed us to go. It was literally a unanimous vote. It was Africa's chance to lead the
just like there was a Changwazi resolution.
Does that mean that other African countries also trust us to lead the General Assembly?
No, according to
Listen,
according to Joel, obviously, the strong African bloc that backed our very own candidate, the Middle Eastern bloc that backed our own, for him, he wants to reduce it to the level of these charlatans and spray that we see in Changwazi.
You guys seem to insinuate that democracy means exquisiteness. No, it does not. Someone described democracy as the trampling on the minority by the majority.
Well, I think this is not a point for us to pontificate whether or not he will do a very good job. I think we need now just hold him accountable.
I hope he does.
What do you expect
to
his speech? He made a wonderful speech yesterday. In his acceptance speech, he issued out what he believed were some of the challenges that he intends to work with the member states in trying to alleviate and, of course, move this world away from post-2015. Remember, let's not forget that the United Nations did put in place Millennium Development Goals, which we are going past. So he is the president that is going to transit from the set target of 2015 to yet another development agenda. And
talking about presidents, can we get to local presidents?
Hold on, my fear is that Sam Kutesa may take the position of an LC5 chairman who promises people he'll build roads when he cannot.
And for me, that's what I'm saying. I'm waiting to see the delivery. These promises of, you see,
because I think there are things he will not do.
So on. That for me is huffing and puffing. Let the
rubber meet the road. I will strongly wallow in the euphoria of the fact that we've got a Ugandan up there, and we're not talking about a man of straw.
It can make us or break us.
And I'm saying that if it was
Joel Semenya, for example, the more it exposes, it's behind.
I understand.
So it can make him or break him. I hope it makes him.
No, listen, your hope or not hope, one thing I want you to be rest assured of, that we have sent a man at the United Nations that is not a man of straw. I mean, there are many characters in this country who are nothing.
Which is okay, he's entitled to it.
Who are nothing. We send them to places and they disappoint us. We've sent athletes who don't come back with any medals. And I'm very
okay, so all right, we agree that whether it was Sam Kutesa or Joel Senyonyi, the fact that Uganda
No. This is SK, Sam Kutesa, Simon Kasi. I mean, the prison
the names are not supposed to be literally everywhere, you know. All right, opposition hasn't decided on 2016 sole candidate. This is according to Besigye. He says there is openness to this idea, but there has not been a resolution. How do you begin discussing elections when you know the ground is not a level one? So clearly, as
why do I have a feeling that that is going to be the conversation for the next 15 years, for the next two elections?
Which one?
I think the opposition is not yet in position to get a sole candidate because some parties want to run on their own.
Well, I guess it's because of the issue.
To use Joel's own words, that is your opinion. Opinions are like noses. You are entitled to that opinion. But I strongly disagree because there are 34 million able Ugandans who can lead the opposition and become president after you.
But you didn't have my opinion on that one. I think it's with rapacity. Each of them wants this thing, and that's why, you know, coming together might not exactly work. And who says that? Because look, when somebody indicts this government, it does not go to say that if yellow is not working, then blue is the panacea to this country's predicaments. Maybe not.
Well, let's move away from local politics and perhaps look at something more interesting on the regional scene. We saw yesterday the protagonists in the South Sudan conflict agreeing to form a unity government. And there's an interesting picture on page 4 of the Daily Monitor where Salva Kiir and Riek Machar, hands held, of course, using mediators, one of them being a clergyman, and seeming to be deep in prayer, seeking divine intervention. And I'm asking myself, is the point where we seek divine intervention, or it's just about people changing their mindset and realizing that what they are doing for their people is certainly counterproductive?
Definitely both.
Seeking divine intervention helps you get to that realization. Look, right. I think each of us needs to wake up every day and say, you know what, let me strive to do better in whatever it is that I'm doing. You probably will goof up every once in a while, but we should all determine whether you're the president, you're an MP, you are news.
And we're talking about president of the United Nations.
Or president of UN General Assembly, president of United Nations. Are you kidding me? President of the UN General Assembly. You don't even know the title of this good friend of yours that you're supporting. But anyhow, let me read you the quote of the day. This is Katikiro Charles Peter Maiga on Daily Monitor. It is difficult to nurture democracy and good governance if the press is not independent. You know, this gentleman is moving around collecting a tafali. Is it tafali? A tofali. A tofali. That one I saw here, he got 100,000 shillings from pupils of the one kindergarten. Interesting. There's many people who are thinking this
has now gone down to kindergartens.
No, kindergartens invite to give him. He does not go to. But because the kindergarten kids believe in Kasubitu, I think we have kind of also narrowed down this debate of a tofali to just Buganda. This is a World Heritage Site. So that's why the Basoga gave, because it also benefits.
Well, he is coming by at ESCOM in August, and we'll
so why are you giving? Or you're doing it for political and PR?
There are a number of reasons as why we are doing it. just like you have a number of reasons why you're collecting this amount of money. So it is two selfish interests meeting together. So I want you to appreciate that.
I would say that ESCOM is largely doing that because of PR, but I would personally do that.
As the corporate affairs officer, what's your
manager?
Well,
no. It's the corporate, but I personally would give this money, first, because it's a World Heritage Site, and I got an opportunity to visit it several times while it was
as a student.
Well, as a student, my school was next to it, but also I was part of the tourism.
You went to this Chinyanyi primary school?
I went to the oldest school in Uganda, Mengo Senior School. But years later, when
You're
I was
not getting the tongue in cheek. He's trying to say that you came from the most humble of little primary schools.
But which
of course,
is good.
But which would be an indictment on his part that he went to Budo Primary School and he's sitting on the same podium as you. So that should be an indictment. He should be sitting next to Haragorani, but he's here with you. Anyway, and that's of course before I reminded him that he's talking to a corporate affairs manager.
Can we move
Well, now moving on. Today is the D-Day. Many of you, the sports lovers, who have been waiting with bated breath and, of course, making your predictions. In as much as your national team is not at the World Cup, but clearly there is a lot of excitement playing across the country. And guess what? Our very good police, weighing in from the experience we had at the last World Cup, which was a very nasty one, where we lost hundreds of Ugandans at the final match with 2 twin blasts that took place in Kampala. The police has released new security guidelines, and some of them, you better listen to this very carefully. One of them, according to our very good friend, Mr. Enanga, football fans should ensure that they move in groups of at least 5.
And we die together.
While moving to watch late night matches. Of course, now the police is moving away from the public order management law, which required us to seek police permission to have a congregation of more than just 5. So now here we see that, interestingly, now they're allowing us to move in groups of at least, not less than 5. And of course, to warn you, my friends who do the beta, that the police has procured even more breathalyzer machines to ensure that there's no drink driving during this festive season, the 1 month of the World Cup. Let's not forget that the opening match will be the hosts Brazil against Croatia. Am I right? You're the football fan here.
Heart to heart, this is a message to the ladies. Don't you sulk throughout the World Cup. Stay home when you can. Invest in a new television set. You know.
I got one of these forwarded WhatsApp messages, which I never read anyway. But this was someone said you must read this, so I was very compelled to read. It's about the World Cup season. And
the remote is mine.
The remote is mine.
Don't cross the TV set. Don't
there we have it. Very many other interesting stories. And of course, if you're such a football fan or a sports lover for that matter, the Daily Monitor is the paper to read this morning as they share with you what will be the predictions, the teams, and all the others that may come into play.
Simon, since you're the corporate affairs manager, and does this work for homes? He gives her 500,000 allowance for staying home. That is what.
I know men who pay their wives.
Would you pay for
to facilitate
her? Your wife?
Joel,
not pay her, to facilitate her to
you asked me my question. You are saying, is this an amount that is affordable? Or
yeah.
Of course, given the deep pockets of the corporate affairs manager of ESCOM, I would give 500,000 shillings to not just even one wife, perhaps more than 3 of them, and still keep them. You can be very sure they are comfortably very deep.
You should come here on the sack or something so that we...
you must appreciate that I work hard for this money. I don't give it away that freely. Otherwise, I would be broke man.
Why are you telling us about the deep pockets?
So that you can...
If it's not going to benefit any of us,
so that you can aspire to be corporate affairs managers. Because I'm not normally on jobs for more than 5 years. Here we are linking up to our dear friend Mabel standing by in the studios of the Kampala Serena Hotel. Mabel, we know that there is a lot happening on the international scene, but the world is for the World Cup. But away from that, we know that an Al-Qaeda breakaway group is running roughshod in parts of Iraq, Mansour to be very exact. What else is playing out on the international scene, Mabel?
Thank you very much, Simon. I'll start by answering your question. I think if my husband would pay me, I probably would stay home, but I love this show a lot, so maybe we'd come to some sort of compromise. But moving on into the international scene, Simon, earlier you had said you were wondering if the paper you were reviewing was yesterday's paper because there was nothing on Sam Kutesa. On the BBC Africa page, we have this story, Uganda's Sam Kutesa elected as the UN General Assembly President. There's a picture here. Again, these people chose the homosexuality picture. They say Uganda's foreign minister has been elected president of the UN General Assembly over protests against his country's treatment of gay people. Sam Kutesa was the unanimous pick for Africa. This is a largely ceremonial role at the UN headquarters, but more than 9,000 people have signed a petition urging UN to block him, and a US senator said it would be disturbing if he actually took the role. Well, that is on the BBC Africa page. Moving on also to BBC Africa, Rwanda and DR Congo battle over a kidnapped soldier. These troops are fighting each other on the shared border, the Congolese information minister says, and that's a bit unfortunate when we fight our neighbors. Now, we have been talking about this story for a couple of days now. Angelina Jolie is in London for this rape summit, and here there is a lady, actually, Esther Atim, who gave her testimony. She said she described being captured by rebels and subjected to rape as well as forced labor. She gave her testimony, and there's a picture here of Esther Atim giving a hug to Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie and William Hague, who is the UK Foreign Secretary, are co-hosting the London summit there. And activists and delegates are represented from several countries, especially countries that have experienced a lot of war. On to the Sky News page, we have World Cup airport strike threatens chaos in Rio. People are facing a chaotic welcome. Ground staff have voted to go on a 24-hour strike, something again we had mentioned earlier in the week. We hope by the time it actually kicks off later today that the government and the transport sector will have come to some sort of compromise. Also on the Sky News, something Simon mentioned earlier, Iraqi militants, the battle will rage in Baghdad as militants close in on the Iraqi capital. Authorities allegedly asked the US to consider drone strikes to stop their march south. We are seeing a potential case of war breaking out fully in Iraq if the Americans probably don't help the situation. And on Reuters, we have, I don't know if you can actually see, but these are people who are in space. They are getting ready for the World Cup. The countries of the World Cup there's a flag at the back there, and the gentlemen, the astronauts, actually have a ball, and they are joining in the World Cup frenzy. Also making news, lots of news regarding the World Cup. Neymar asking Brazil fans to get behind the team. Brazilian national soccer team player Neymar reacts here in this picture while feeling discomfort during a training session ahead of the opener, which is happening today. And on the CNN page, Iraq open to U.S. airstrikes against militants. American-trained Iraqi forces are hopefully will use airstrikes to stop the spread of fighting to other cities. And then we have Tracy Morgan. Some of us know him, a very famous comedian. He was involved in a car crash on Monday night, and the driver has pled not guilty despite saying he had not slept. And we also have Angelina Jolie here still on CNN. Rape in war is not inevitable, she says. Shame is on the aggressor. She says it is a myth that rape is an inevitable part of conflict. There is nothing inevitable about it. It is a weapon of war aimed at civilians. It has nothing to do with sex, everything to do with power. And as we conclude, again, People's Cup. The pressure is on Brazil ahead of the World Cup, and we are looking forward to a very colorful ceremony today. And as you can see, I have my earrings on, and I think I'll be wearing my lovely earrings every day that England plays. Well, I wore them today because of the opener, but every other day England plays, I will be rooting for my team. So that's all we had for you in the international scene. The big story continues right after this break.
Did you know that more than 6 million Ugandans use the fastest growing media in the world? In fact, more than 5,000 join Facebook every week, thousands follow trends on Twitter, and many more use several other social media platforms. So, are you thinking smart about the power of online media platforms? Let You Go Uganda offer you business professional social media training, strategic online concept development, and effective online advertising solutions.
Ekifo ekimu kissa wamusu n'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
She was molested when she was 6 by someone she trusted.
The doctors finally walked into the door. They basically were telling me that she had a 5% chance of living.
I couldn't understand how somebody that tells you they loved you, that held you as a child, could abuse you.
Tommy Scott grew up among gang violence, drugs, and poverty in the projects of South Central Los Angeles.
I felt not normal, not good. I wasn't lovable.
As a teen, Melissa discovered that drinking gave some relief.
Tommy is free today and continues to tell people that it was Jesus who changed his life.
The time I spent in prison, I spent putting my ideas together on, how I was going to come back and make it all right.
And I realized my purpose, that I was created to reflect the glory of God.
Duke now realizes why God kept him alive.
These were real people facing desperate situations, just like you and me.
Jesus died to set you free, and he can give you a new heart. I'm going to blow your mind, and I'm going to twist your taste buds. The flavors are already coming together. I can feel them. Very lovely, very appetizing, very powerful. Remember, the way you see it, the way you like it, is the way you get it, from my kitchen to your kitchen.
Mikwano gyaffe bana NTV ate naddala mu bannaamu muli gw'emizannyo muli gw'ebyemizannyo gukomyewo 2014 ate mutya kati ate gukyusiza n'obudde gwa 7 gwali gwa 9 ne mugugoberera ntusanyuka kati gubongereddeko wano malya g'ebyemisana awo osooke gubatayize gubaleetire buli kintu kyonna kalonda erina ebyemizannyo omuli gw'ebyemizannyo mupya 2014 Isima waali alagira Argentina yenjo mukubira eddiba lye omukwano kujja kukoma wano ku muli gw'emizannyo naye kasita kinatuuka eri bano ba Messi okulumba abalenzi baffe ba Thiago Silva awo tewali mukwano omuli gw'ebyemizannyo 2014 President.
Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat.
Follow the beat.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus came to set you free and to be free indeed.
In life, you don't wait. There are certain times where you wait for certain decisions, but when it comes to taking action and choices, you have to move
Jesus Christ found me, and he actually asked me a question, whether I wanted to live or to die.
Every day of my life was struggling. It's just that God has given me this kind of hope.
GXP every Sunday only on NTV, your official inspiration station.
Health and wellness
is brought to you by Caring Takes Strength, Panadol Advance. When minutes matter, take Panadol Advance. Panadol Advance is a fast pain reliever with Optizop technology. Caring takes strength. Panadol Advance. You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Mulondo.
It's a very good morning, the 12th day of June 2014, and it's budget day across the 3 East African member states. Should I say 3 or even 5? Yes, and today in Uganda, we look at what's making it in the budget for the financial year 2014 to 2015. We know that obviously the last financial year has been one of ups and downs. We expect the same for the next one. We see reports coming in that we expect a tough budget ahead because the Ministry of Finance is grappling with the deficits. The big story this morning is dissecting that and even much more when we host a development economist and a senior manager at KPMG, Dr. Fred Muhumuza. At the risk of sounding like a macroeconomic guru, I would love just to share with you a few statistics here this morning that the economy in the last financial year made a significant rebound, growing at 5.1%. And inflation subsided and was recorded at about 3.6% as at the end of May 2013. This was a marked reduction from the double digits that we're always used to. We know that some 845 kilometers of major and or feeder roads have been completed or are on course for completion. And we also know that in the last financial year, in the energy sector, we saw the 250 megawatt Bujagali power plant online. What should we expect as an outlook for this year? And I turn to my guest this very morning, an outspoken economic analyst who, one, prefers to call himself a development economist, but we also know very well that you do some economic teaching at Makerere University in Kampala, as well as a senior manager at KPMG running the Financial Services Inclusion Program.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, the big story, Dr. Fred Muhumuza.
Good morning, how are you?
Let's start from where you are. Are you optimistic or greatly pessimistic about today's budget reading that will certainly take us to the next year?
I think the things you've talked about put me in between. Between optimism and pessimism. So I remain neutral.
You, even if I had said nothing, you would want to stay in there. What makes you optimistic? Let's start from there.
The optimism side is at least the economy has rebounded. We now have inflation down. We are hoping in the medium term it should remain there. So we do not expect to see central bank rates rising up to the 15s or 20s as they were, which is a good signal for loan obligations to begin increasing as the banks possibly either hold where they are or even come down. We'll be expecting them to be coming down.
That's tremendous.
We still have our regional demand because I think that is one of the major drivers for Uganda, which is basically anchored around food. When I see the rainy seasons coming through, at least this season we've had some good rain, so we expect some good harvest.
Well, I also know that from last year we had about 35,000 farmers receiving improved maize seedlings.
Yes, they did.
Those we know that some of them ate them.
Some of them ate them, some of it did not germinate.
Yes, of course.
So, but the harvest at least will give us a result. The good thing with the food is there is always a market around.
Absolutely.
So we expect, and that money directly goes to the farmers.
Let's look at what makes you pessimistic then.
Pessimism comes as the deficit, as we have talked about. We don't see how easily to close off that. We have had some heavy borrowing domestically, which is also not very good because you are crowding out the kind of the private sector. You are competing with them for resources. It's not even a competition. When the government walks into the market, the others are just insignificant.
Absolutely, because
so it's not even a competition anymore. But also the increase in the interest rate, because government is borrowing at about 12, 13, or even sometimes 14%. Now that becomes the risk-free benchmark. So if any other persons, depending on how risky you are, the banks will begin from there to put a markup. So some people will end up borrowing at 25, at 20, 30%, and that's not good for business. And if it's not good for private businesses, then we fail to realize the value out of our infrastructure investments. Because remember, roads is a given.
Absolutely.
It is what you use those roads for that is actually the value of that road.
But you see, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, and indeed I would want this discussion to come down from that high economic pedestal so that the guy watching us from his humble TV, say, somewhere tucked away in Soroti, or for that matter in Gulu, and who does not have any money in his pocket, who has seen his expenditure increase and yet his income remains stagnant, who sees his ability to afford life's little basics dwindling by there, possibly understands the hope that you're sharing or the pessimism that you're sharing. When you talk about all these good things that make you optimistic, how can we break down the message for an ordinary Ugandan to appreciate that indeed the budget and the government are moving to a point where it will be affordable for everyone to live a decent life?
I think for the ordinary Ugandan, as you have described, which definitely I imagine I'm one of them, the two things we have discussed, is one, the farmer would expect to get something tangible if they can get the harvest. So for the farmers who got the seed that never germinated, or those who ate their seed, definitely they fall on the optimism side, on the pessimism side. Then the farmers who are having a good harvest are definitely going to get some good money. But of course the trouble is the seasons, they all harvest at the same time, and they are so badly off for money, so they sell at that low price.
And there's also so much supply.
So it is these store managers in Kampala who are able to reap the difference, because they can buy and stock for months and then sell the rice and the maize to us, having added another 1,000
Even the milk,
shillings.
I do not know who takes the bulk of the share.
Exactly,
the
that is the whole
I
difference.
know that from my farm gate, I sell it at 300 shillings
and
a
we
liter,
are buying at 2,500.
and I'm buying it at 2,500.
Even from the normal kind of dairy you're talking about, it is still at 1.6 or 1.7.
Absolutely, the guys on the bicycles who the ministry
So it is that in between, and that is where we're saying if those businesses, by the way, are not doing well, because some of these guys, as you're saying, you can't blame the middleman. I've had the middleman being blamed. But remember, we've just said the middleman has borrowed at 25%.
Oh yeah, so he needs to put his
He also needs to put his markup. He's also paying a bank loan. He's doing all those kinds of things. So it is very difficult to say who exactly is taking what. So the bottom line is we must work to make sure the rates, interest trending rates, go back down. And we'll make sure we are investing in things that people do. As you have said, the common person, what do they do?
Absolutely.
How can we help them realize an income from what they do?
Well, of course, the entire day today, NTV will be bringing to you the live broadcast of the budget day speech, and we'll have a lot of insight and commentary coming in from extremely talented and very deeply informed economists. And for the sake of this morning show, I wanted to bring it down almost to the level of any person's understanding, because, you know, people watching us this morning want to hear a budget speech that says, we've increased pay for civil servants, if they are civil servants, teachers' pays have been risen, taxes have been reduced, or the price of fuel has gone down, because you know that fuel, for example, has a ripple down effect. But when we see a little increment in the price of fuel to create some kind of new revenue to possibly plug the gaps that were left by development partners when they pulled out, then we'll see a ripple effect on the increment of other goods and services across the board. What should we look out for in this budget? From your predictions, you've been at Ministry of Finance before.
One, I do not expect the taxes to go down, because I think Ugandan's tax rates are not that bad.
Everybody is always complaining.
Yes.
Oh, a taxpayer is
compared to the region, we are at par. So we wouldn't expect them to go down. More so when we need the revenue. As you have just said, tax revenue is the only thing that we can rely on now. Now, where you would want, and I may expect or not, an increase in the pay, the wages for civil servants. There is always a small markup increase to catch up for inflation.
Okay.
So possibly that will come through. But I think going by what the media have been giving us, a lot is more to do with people not getting even the little that they have been promised. Now, that also affects the common person. So we want to hear things that will resolve all these missing salaries.
Prioritization of government, you know, in the market. Do you confidently believe that many times government does put the money where our mouth is?
It tries to, because let's first of all begin with, we do not have enough money.
Well, the president at the State of the Nation address said what government of Uganda has is money.
It is money, but it's not enough, because whatever you have, I think, as you're saying, prioritization, that's where, for me, the problem would be. We seem to have spread our budget so thin and so wide that you want free education for the 8 million children, you want free health services for everybody, you want people should not pay graduated tax, you want people should have a big government, you want people should have this democracy. So all these
Because I had him on that the other day celebrations of Heroes Day saying that in fact there could be some look into increasing the constituencies. That means more members of parliament.
So those are some of the problems that you will be getting, because those things don't translate into the common person's food on the table and the interest. There is no correlation between those two. Actually, the services have deteriorated because of an increase in the public sector administration budget.
But beyond just the hemorrhage with the huge bill of public administration, we also look at the issue, the age-old issue of corruption.
Yes.
Corruption continues to bleed. Even the little frugality that the government puts in place, the few measures in getting as much revenue as possible that government puts in place, corruption seems to sip this away, and it's exacerbated by the fact that our judicial system is simply unable to deterrently punish those who are convicted. In the first place, they don't even convict anybody. We know that monies get lost, but nobody seems to be getting convicted. Even when they get convicted, the arguments are that it is on tribal or political reasons. Doesn't this bother you as an economist from where you sit, that hemorrhage continues to take place in our national coffers and nothing is done to stop it?
I think, as you say, there are two problems that for me I would rank 1 and 2 for Uganda. The first one being corruption. The second one, that has now bred debt. Public debt is going to be the next problem. But let's discuss the corruption, as you have said. Corruption, even before you go to the judiciary, is you have to block it at the point where it happens. The president has said NAD's money has not gone where it should have gone.
Absolutely.
Now, for me, the whole beginning is there, that you have given people money without clear objectives of what they are supposed to do.
What are you talking about, Dr. Fred?
And then you have given
NADS has got a billboard in their offices of their mission, statement, and objectives.
I know for a fact you will tell people of NADS go and buy seeds. We very well know in Uganda there is no seed to buy. That's why people are just putting anything. So you should have started to say, let's produce seed. So in that place, you engage prisons, you engage people with large pieces of land to produce seed, not to grow food for the market, but to grow seed for the gardens, which will eventually now come to the market.
But that's in the private sector. You have Victoria Seeds and all the other
but this is NAD's money. So what is NAD going to buy? Because if you give these people billions to buy seed, and you know very well the seed is not in the country, what have you told them to do? Steal the money. And of course, they will find all sorts of things. So they will say, let's hold a workshop, let's increase our allowances, let's buy new vehicles, let's do a billboard here, let's do signposts. Because whatever you send them to do is not even in the country.
Oh yes, they are constrained.
So the problem is the planning to allocate the money to specifics. Because if I can do that, then on an annual budget I can say, this is what you got money for, where is it? But if you just give me a blank check with an envelope or a sack, as they say these days, I'll disappear with the sack.
Fred, there are areas that would otherwise work as a cash cow for Uganda, even without increasing our taxes. If we put our money in tourism, for example, and of course infrastructure development to support the tourism sites that we have here.
Yes.
How are you disappointed for the most part that many a time we see tourism being clamored for by non-state actors, the private players in the tourism industry, and Uganda just keeps mum? All that we've been doing in the last 3 years, if I remember quite correctly, we've been harping about the issue of oil that, oil this. But we also know that these oil exploration companies, or even oil miners for that matter, like Talo, for example, are facing it rough with regard to how they're able to operate in this country because there are no proper business frameworks. I've been told that they are not very happy with government with regard to these documents that they need to put in place to ensure that they perform their businesses accordingly. Isn't Uganda bad at prioritizing?
It's not even, I think I would say, the appreciation of how do you do a development process. How do you pick these low-lying fruits? Because development is a scientific process. And it requires some certain things to be done. As you have said, what documents do you have? What institutions do you have? Let's all agree the oil industry is a complicated industry. And Uganda, we are not going to be able to resolve it at least easily if we just keep it to ourselves. We ought to have crafted in more people who have been experienced in this field.
Well, one thing is for sure,
from wherever they have come from. If you look at countries like Norway, they began by bringing in Americans, they brought in British, and they did not come into the industry until after decades. Now, Uganda thinks they can grapple with these issues from infantry. Now, that is problem number one that we are having. Talking about tourism, because the beginning part of it was going to be the infrastructure. The roads, people want their iPads working wherever they are, but the security, remember we lost some people who had gone out there.
Many years ago.
For me, those are investments that support the tourism sector. And I think the level we have reached, I have liked the new thinking in the tourism industry because the board was changed.
Yes.
They brought in some of the private actors themselves. Now, there,
Mr. Stephen Asima was on this very show, giving us very rosy outlook.
Yes, what is left right now is promotion. Because at least we have invested. Now we need to get value out of our investments in terms of security, in terms of infrastructure. And I think government is supporting that promotion. It is a very expensive venture to advertise out there.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza, a budget speech is a complicated, formal product. It is a product that many great minds like yourselves, and I know that there are tremendous brains at the Ministry of Finance, sit together, bang through figures, look through scenarios, situations, and come up with a budget that is read to us every financial year.
Yes.
It sounds good at that point, or even bad for that matter. But when we come to yet the next budget, we realize that the implementation of this wonderful paper has not been done. Where is the missing link?
As you have said, there are two things that people need to know that are going to happen today. What we are going to have today is a budget speech, not necessarily the budget itself. The speech is like the wrapping, an abridged version of the budget itself. And in the case of Uganda, as I've said, we have so overcommitted ourselves that even before you begin budgeting, 95% of your budget is a given. You have already these running road projects, you already have the millions of children in school, you already have civil servants,
so it
you
is
have
recurrent.
a parliament. So all those things, you're not going to change anything around them. You're just left to tinker with about 5%. So that is where the complication is, that if anybody wants to understand the budget, and actually the speech is made into an easy way for people to interact with. But what you need is this big, voluminous document, over 1,000 pages. It sometimes comes in 3 volumes. Central government, recurrent, central government, capital, local governments, and all those kinds of things. Big volumes of these, where the actual numbers are. Now, that is where you begin to say, somebody is saying improvement of maternal health, 30 billion.
But what is
in there
going to do?
Or what is not in there? And quite often, I have tried some of these things and I've found nothing.
As so I told you, the documents are not well made to allow for the implementation.
Because there is supposed to be another planning at the sectoral level to actualize that amount. Because I've said I've given an extra 30 billion for recruitment of nurses. Now, as I told you, like nuts and seeds, I know for a fact there are no nurses to recruit in this country. So you should have begun by saying, let's train the nurses. So if you are just going to put 30 billion to improve maternal health and you leave it open like that, you won't get the result. Because as I've always said, nurses are localized. You're not going to recruit your Mchiga and take them to Teso to work as a nurse. So when we're talking about recruitment of nurses, we must go that local. And who is training these Sebei, Samiyas, Bachiga, Bahororo, and to work in those environments who are needed in that particular hospital? So you release the money and the year passes, no recruitment has taken place, adverts have run, nobody has responded. So this is a very complicated process. And until we open up those detailed boxes, the president, I hope, is still continuing with NADS, because after NADS, he has to find that the entire government possibly needs to
an
be
overhaul.
rethought.
Well, Fred, now that you studied from that point, I will take you now on a political lane and look at the role of the opposition. Of course, we know that after this budget presentation, the Secretary of the Exchequer on the other side, if I may use those very complicated words, the Shadow Minister of Finance will also issue what they call their alternative budget and try to see whether they can punch a few holes in this budget speech that the Minister of Finance of the government will have presented today. Now, from where you sit, many a times, do you find the opposition's alternatives to the budget presented by government tangible and worth any form of consideration?
They are worth thinking because they give some new ideas. But as I've said, until somebody opens up that bonnet and looks at the engine, the type and the things that are not in there. So quite often the opposition also remains high level, and many times they are just analyzing what has been put on the table. So just kind of a critique of this is what they said, this is what should have been said.
Or just carrying out the ritual of criticism simply because they expected to do
this is
so.
what they said, this is what they should have said, this is what they said, this is what they said. And some of them are not practical. But if they could go deeper and add value to this, kind of looking at a complementary role rather than just a reflection of to give the opposition, so to speak.
Let's look at Parliament as we close this down. The Parliament is supposed, obviously, to be very frugal and look into these budgets that have been put up across all the sectors. Does Parliament, in your view, do a good job in trying to ensure that the money is exactly disseminated where it was budgeted to go?
I would wish Parliament to do what they do on the post-mortem with Auditor General's reports. Call the officials down, because Parliament usually will end with the executive and possibly the permanent secretaries to defend the budgets. But these budgets, remember, are going to leave these ministries and go down to the local governments and go down to the agencies and departments. So I want this time Parliament to call these people and say, you were given this 5 billion. Give us the details.
And Parliament has been doing that for the most part. We've seen the local governments committee and the public accounts committee sitting actually not even away from Parliament, sitting in these local areas and calling the leaders right there.
Sometimes whenever they are sitting, they are discussing the Auditor General's report, which is a post-mortem of what happened. But I want them to engage in this parliamentary discussion, to call somebody coming in from I don't know which district and say, give us the detailed plan for your district. You will be amazed to find there is literally hardly anything being submitted at that level.
Dr. Fred Muhumza, it's always a pleasure having you for these insightful comments that you make with regard to financial matters. Our dear viewers, we need to take a very short break as time is not an ally on our side, but I need to remind you once again that NTV will be, for the most part of today, bringing to you the live telecast of the budget day, function, but also with the deep analysis and insight into the matter of financial frugality, management, and all these other terms that go around the budget dissemination. We'll be right back with Simon Says. You see, they say that the smallest unit of society is the family, but of course, even the family, the smallest unit of the family is an individual. Many times when I am hearing things like the State of the Nation address, I look down into myself and try to make a state of self address. Now, when it comes to the budget day speech, I also try to look into myself and try to address my budget matters as an individual. And I would want you and I to share this with me. Many a times, you know what your income is like in a month. Have you ever bothered to calculate what your expenditure is? Well, I'll be very honest with you. My expenditure, for the most part, is always higher than the income. And I've never been able to answer the question where that excess comes from. That I spend that I have not earned in. Where does it come from? Well, at least I know one sure way. I may borrow from one or two sources. Now, the question is also, when I spend more than I earn, what am I spending on? Am I spending on priority areas? Am I prioritizing my expenditure in the right way that should be? The moment you are unable to prioritize and spend within your means and live within your means and live a frugal life and be comfortable and not behave like one guy who digs a hole to cover another hole. In other words, you borrow to pay a debt, borrow again to pay the other debt. Then clearly at a wider state of affairs or the bigger stage of the nation where you also belong and contribute to, certainly the national budget will seem, look, even smell as such. I always tell you of the collective sum of our contributions and actions. If you are unable to be frugal in your own personal life, do not expect the same of the state. And like I have always told you, this Saba government Yambe attitude certainly leads us to one place: gloom and doom. So, as we wait to listen to the national budget speech, let's reflect internally and see how we are faring in our own little budgets, where we stand as individuals. The moment we are able to think that we are frugal enough, shall we then have the moral authority to hold governments on other institutions where we belong to account or to those high standards of ensuring that the budget in the right way for the right causes? Have a good morning. Morning at NTV does continue, of course, with tremendous programming. Of course, do not forget that today is the kickoff of the World Cup, and our sports segment this morning, it's not one that you should miss.
soon on NTV.
Music is back. El Rey Mago. Tuitam. El Maravilloso. Shut up, man. Shut up, man. Please shut up, man. I said shut up, man.
This one should be straight. Like this. No, you start with doctor or you start. Doctor retired. Who baptized this guy called me, this name is Joseph?
Professor Joel coming soon on NTV.
Kampala has been voted in the past as one of the favorite cities for tourists, one of the most peaceful cities. That is something that is changing.
Kale Kaihura, the Inspector General of Police, and President Yoweri Museveni, their alliance, they can only crack down or stop individual strikes and individual demonstrations. But I don't think they can stop the growth of militancy.
No holds barred.
President Mulago have particular grievances against the government, some legitimate, some misguided. What should the police do? Of course, the police has to intervene, A, to protect the power of President Yoweri Museveni and the NRM from disruption by President Mulago, but B, also, never forget this, to protect those ordinary people whose property gets destroyed.
I want to ask, but many think that they've actually been frustrated.
Opposition parties in Africa do not tend to be constructed around policy differences. FDC lacks a glue to hold its coalition of different power-hungry individuals together.
Incisive.
You see, the NRM is more divided internally than the FDC. The advantage with the NRM is it has political power.
Analytical.
I think that one of the best organized political parties in Uganda is the PPP, the People's Progressive Party with Ansari. This idea that everybody telling around the world that Africans are poor and they cannot contribute to their own political and social emancipation is crap. In fact, I think that the opposition parties in Uganda have to win an election in an unfair and unleveled ground.
Newsnight with Andrew Mwenda. Ekifo ekimu kisawa musu. N'ekyalo ekiweddeko abamanye bakiraza mumwa. Tugenda kutuuka gy'oli oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo, embeera mw'okolera, ebyobufuzi, ebyobulamu, n'ensonga endala nnyingi. Ebyogerwa tebiyita. Tuusa eddoboozi lyo, yogera naffe. Buli lwakuna, otereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
Mikwano gyaffe bana NTV ate naddala mu bannaamu muli gw'emizannyo. Muli gw'ebyemizannyo gukomyewo 2018 mupya. Kati ate gukyusiza n'obudde gwa 7 gwali gwa 9 ne gugoberera ne tusanyuka kati gubongereddeko wano mu malya g'ebyemisana awo. Kusho tugubatayize tubale tuli ku kintu kyonna kalonda n'ebyemizannyo. Muli gw'ebyemizannyo mupya 2014 Isima waali alagira Argentina yenge mukubira eddiba lye omukwano kujja kukomawo ku muli gw'emizannyo naye kasita kinatuuka eri bano ba Messi okulumba abalenzi baffe ba Thiago Silva awo tewali mukwano omuli gw'ebyemizannyo 2014.
Everybody in parliament as long as they can wake up and vote for the NRM.
As long as the voters exercise their rights to elect their leaders, there was no need for term limits in Uganda.
I know him. I know how he operates. I know how he thinks.
There are ways you can go around these obstacles.
Why should I conduct myself as if I am Umunyai? It's absolutely true. I admire the President Museveni. Is the ICC a fiscal code targeting African leaders?
You cannot tell me that the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about all the two individuals.
The money is not in the budget of this financial year.
You can't beat God. You see, God is polygamous also. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31.
The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
The average age of the entire national team in Uganda is 18 and the primary role of
Team Uganda is to remain to Division 2.
Probably that's the only thing that can make one or two rugby fans smile, that the clubs are doing well.
The players haven't put on they haven't wore the game faces. They're not the animals we saw last season because Ferguson had the same group of players and he did deliver the Holy Grail, which is the title.
on the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
La Patrona.
I know the motive. I know the reason why my mother struck against them.
Let me make something clear, Balmaceda. I don't meddle in your work. So you don't mess with my family.
I want to have a serious talk with you.
A serious talk?
Well, go right ahead then, miss. Tell me, are you divorcing my father?
If all the witnesses died, including Gabriela Suarez, how do you know all these supposed details about the explosion?
It's time to get revenge. We're united by pain and the blood of our departed. Without regret and without pity.
La Patrona.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and none of us from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV with Simon Kasiate, Mabel Kebirunji and Brian Mulondo.
You're still watching Morning at NTV and I'm so excited. Brian is here. But Brian, you came with your cup of chai from up there.
I do not know how you managed to do 1.5 hours of the show here without coffee.
This is not fair. I also want a cup of chai. Anyway, I'm so happy to have Brian here with me. This doesn't happen very often. Actually, I am smart in this.
Yeah, you're just wearing the wrong earrings. So, but I'm sure I will kind of do what the French did, assimilate you.
Well, we'll start off by saying happy birthday to George W. Bush, H.W. Bush, actually, the 41st President of the United States of America. He turns 90 today. He's here in a wheelchair with his beloved wife, Barbara, and they're planning a party of 200. I wonder if Mr. Obama will actually make that list.
I think he will. Well, the president.
He's the president.
Yeah.
Well, this is the reason I am wearing red and white today.
You're supporting the wrong team, neighbor.
Really? With my earrings? I just can't wait for Isma to come in and see my earrings.
Because the flight that brought England to Brazil is still running. So.
The plane is still running. You had mentioned...
So the most awesome team in the world, the Azuris here, Italy, and...
you even know these guys. Yes. I know this one. I know Balotelli.
He's coming to Arsenal.
I know Balotelli.
I think he's coming to Arsenal. Andre Pila, one of the greatest midfielders of all time. Yeah, so this is our team. I'm not a Catholic, but I love this guys. The Pope will intercede for us.
Okay, on to some of your messages on Facebook this morning. We have someone saying, Brian Mulondo is always smart.
Why didn't you tell me about this comment? I should have added more, Thank you.
Kevis Katende saying, morning guys, the World Cup is the profound event of the year and I can't miss it, by the way. Thank you very much. Boaz Mwine saying, morning guys, don't doze like some of our MPs. You were saying the chairs were very comfortable.
That place is so comfortable. The AC was on, the chairs are very soft. Now I understand why they doze. Yeah. We're probably going to get more chewing gum, but...
yeah, it would be actually interesting to know. And someone here saying, I agree with Joel that Sam Kutesa didn't do well in Uganda, but I think he's going to make it. Maybe. Let's wait for him.
Well, like I've always said, it's a different ball game at the UN. You pay for the mistakes you've done. So Sam knows that, and I think he's going to... Okay, I've grown up with people who don't like calling them by their titles. Okay, our Minister of Foreign Affairs knows that, and I think he's going to be more disciplined, more careful. But ideally, you have to lobby more at UN, so most of that is going to happen. He doesn't have the power to vote on any issue, so that is also one of the things that may trim him down. So
is this something like Lord Mayor?
More like it. I think more of the role is going to be limited to chairing meetings and just steering debate, and even the decision that they make in the General Assembly does not really affect international, but it only shapes international debate, what we think about the issues, and there are people who are mandated to make to call the shots at the UN.
Okay, moving on. Today's budget day. Someone saying nothing new in today's budget. It's not going to impact anything to us. The same like last year. Dave is saying, you know, some people when they are well off, they don't think there's anyone who fails to get even $50, and that is our government. So they make a budget considering the rich, hence creating the economy which cannot be afforded by the last Ugandan. But today, we wait and see what they have cooked.
You see, the problem has always been that we don't have our tax base is not enough. Those of us who pay tax are few, and when you look at your pay slip at the end of the month, they've literally taken 35% of that. So what government needs to do now, even as we think about the budget, is ways of expanding tax base. So we're going to pay for income, we're going to pay more taxes, whether you're a tenant or a landlord, we're supposed to pay all these. So we wait. That's why we came up with ridiculous things like paying for phones, because we do not have enough money to go around the other departments. But we are waiting on which sectors are going to have more increments or cuts. So that's for me my highlight.
Okay, Hadija Nachimbugwe saying budget kati is a song Tetiambe, and Jesse saying those government officials just mind about their stomachs and hence the space in their minds to think of people. Merry World Cup, everybody.
All right, and we'll wait at 2 o'clock. Remember, NTV will be going live to the Kampala Serena Hotel, where Honorable Maria Chwanuka will be delivering the budget for the next financial year, 2014-2015. We'll have a comprehensive analysis thereafter by our business team here at NTV. So make sure to catch us starting at 2 p.m. We will be live. Now coming up, maybe I don't know about you. I'm going to host an ordinary day, everyday man. Ugandan. No expert, I'm an expert in raising children, but he has 6 children. We're going to be looking at how he has been able to, one, bond with all the 6 and manage conflict between with all of them, but ultimately, how do you raise such a number in a world that is so sex-starved and
Can I say something? I know you gotta run. But I read something. A man was once saying, and he said, I used to have 6 theories on how to raise kids. I now have 6 kids and no theories. And I found that so funny. So maybe he'll tell us if he was one of those.
Stay with us. Coming up, Everyday Life. Well, this morning I'm going to be talking to a gentleman who has 6. Good morning. How are you? Well, first of all, how do you get 6 kids that fast? You look like you are 30. Well, I'm blessed. You're blessed. Yeah. This world today is very sex-starved. We are always thinking of when I have a son, and I keep thinking, how am I going to raise this boy? And I'm always on my toes thinking, okay, this must be the place, this must be the place. But first of all, I want us to look at bonding with the 6. You know, I have friends who have kids who, that have chosen to say, when it comes to these issues, I go to mommy. Or even when they beat the kids, or when the kids cry for something, they won't go to daddy, they'll run straight to mommy because they know Papa is not going to listen. How have you managed to divide that love?
Well, with children, sometimes our African setup in most cases, we think, it's the mother who's supposed to take care of the children, give all her time to the children. But you realize that we equally require to be part of these children's life.
Right.
Yeah. And I think I've managed, I may not say I've managed well, but there are always challenges, but at least my children know I'm there for them.
What is your limitation when bonding with them? What are some of those things that make you wonder, will it be possible? Because for some of us, we are limited by the fact that we are never raised by the complete family.
Yeah.
So we do not have a clue on how to relate. But what we do is come up with authoritative measures. Say, I'll beat you, I'll do this. So we create that kind of thing that if the child fears me, they are forced to be close to me.
That's where sometimes we go wrong. Sometimes we confuse fear and respect. most cases we find children, they fear their father, but they don't respect him, but just because of fear. Well, that beating is part of the game, but the child should know when you beat them, then you are trying to make them better. Actually, the most cases when I talk to my children, I tell them, I'm doing this not because I hate you or something, but I'm doing this to make you a better person tomorrow. And you know, my children, sometimes they had learned before, they have very many friends. And when we move together, you always say, everyone knows you everywhere. So I just tell them, but you have to live with people. I've learned to live with, I can live with anyone on this earth. I have no problem with any other person. Just that they learn how people behave, and that is it. So you have to put your children in that same focus, so that they can easily live with any person. Sometimes we think they are our children. Yes, they are our children, but they belong to the world. You're not going to stay with your children forever. I know they are when they are of age, they need to go out and work with different characters of people. So you have to prepare them.
Have you found yourself in a position where you had to choose between your children? And I know, most parents find it hard when you ask them, do you have a favorite child? For you, have you had where you say, but Bambi, I like this particular girl or this particular boy? You forgive him because you love him. You're biased by the fact that you love the other child more than the rest.
I think to me it is different. You know, as a father, you are a manager of your home.
Right.
And all these people, the 6 children and my wife, all have different strengths and weaknesses. So you find someone is doing better in one way, another one is doing the other side, they are better than the other. So it's not good to say you have a favorite child like that. You have to take care of your children together and learn them and know who is strong here and who is weak here. This one is useful in this case because every child has their strength.
Right.
So I have no challenge like saying this is my favorite or something.
As a father, how have you managed to make sure that your children, even not just born with each other? Of course, there's a natural thing that we are siblings, we have to naturally gel. But I've also seen families where right from the start, the siblings have never had a conversation, not more than 10 minutes. They can't have it. With themselves, they just can't relate with each other.
Well, there are things I always concentrate on. Like when I get home, sometimes I go back home late, and maybe sometimes I find them having supper or something. Then I always ask, where is son? Because I always want them to have supper together or lunch together. Thinking of, this one get food and then they go to their room or whatever. It's not. So I want them to be together. So I always want to see the challenges they face when they are together. How do they eat together? How do they watch the TV together? No, there are challenges. For example, when we are watching the TV, everyone has the program of their choice. The favorite program. Me, I watching football. Period.
What team do you support?
World Cup.
England.
Oh
my God.
Liverpool.
Why did I host
England? I should have hosted Italy.
All right, yeah. So you worked a mechanism where they have to also create time for themselves or play together. Because I will share with you personally. When I was growing up, while I was exciting, I loved being alone. At the end of the day, I just want to retreat back to my cave and just be alone. When I got home, it was about me. Slept off, sat on my game, or did whatever alone because I didn't want to learn. And that's how I grew up. And over time I learned how to, even if you had a very long day when people have to also release part of yourself to that. So I've had a lot, that has been a major challenge, even my family, that they think I was alone when young. Have you taught your children how to also take care of that part?
Every life social animal, I would say. The people I stay with all the time, they know. That's why those like being alone. No wonder you say that you look at 30-year-old. Because I'm always, so I always want to
have my children take up that. Where you don't have to be alone and think a lot about your issues, because you always have issues, have challenges, but you need to do with people. That's why I want my children to be together. So I see those fights are very helpful by the way. When they are fighting over a computer, someone wants to play a game, another one wants to do something else on the computer, but then you watch and see them and guide them. Even where you work, you have a competition, although healthy competition. Where the resources are not enough for something, but you find they are going to start in the world. So if you don't prepare them now, they will get issues when they are old. They cannot live with anyone. There are people who find that our places and then they can't work with other people. They have issues that, so you have to prepare them, put that responsibility in them before they are handed over to the world. Because you can't live with your children forever. Yeah.
We chat to Edson, who is the father of six, and share with us his experience of how he managed first born with all these six, but also foster that relationship between them. I do not know what the experience is for a neighbor. Maybe just come up here, because I don't know if, I don't know what the experience is, but for the family that are watching right now, yes. Any last thought that you have for parents that no families and want to carry that relationship?
I think this goes men, because most women they give a lot to the children, but sometimes men don't. They think it's the responsibility of the wife. But let me tell you, men, your children need you more than even your wife, because you are a manager at home. You must have, you give them your time.
Bond with the children.
Yeah, it's just automatic, But I find like, for example, myself, find my children are so close to me. Most of the girls always come to me. My first born is 19. She's now
your first born is 19.
She's at the campus. Of course, for her now her challenges are different from the young ones. You understand? But I make her my friend. We talk about issues. And you find it easy, and she finds it easy to talk to me about her challenges, which makes it more useful for the children and myself. Yeah, because I want my children to be responsible. Yeah.
Well, I don't know your experience growing up. Was it also the same? Were you born in a family? I'm the first born of six. Three from my mom. Three people are older than me. My brother, my brother, and then my other two sisters. But we're a very, very close family. We are very, very close. To the extent that probably I'll say this on air, and my mom should be watching. Our mom is able to call each of us every single day. It's amazing how she manages 6 people. Wow. She's able to call each one of us every single day. Wow. I don't know how she manages, because I can't even keep up with 3 friends I met yesterday. You have to call them for... it's amazing. But I come from a very, very close family. Very close. I tell you as close as you could imagine. Well, this morning we are waking up to the news of the World Cup. Of course, a couple of hours opener. What do we have on the menu as far as sports is concerned? Brian, yesterday we talked about the teams that we think will be competitive around the World Cup. We'll continue with some of those. We'll talk about Italy. We'll talk about neighbors England. We'll also talk about the World Cup opener between Brazil and Croatia. Croatia does have some of the better players, and I think it will take a bit out of the World Cup opener today. But the strikes, there's a lot of stories. We go to the international side. There's a lot of World Cup stories, a lot of trivia. And that's why I got a correction from somewhere. Brazil have not lost a game at home since 2002. It's 12 years. The last thing to beat them was Paraguay. Could Croatia be the first in 12 years? I don't think so. Thank you so much for taking us.
Thank you very much.
At how England won't win the World Cup.
We'll be short.
We'll be back with the sports update.
NTV with Simon Cassiati, Mabel Kebi and Brian Mulago.
Health and wellness. Supported by Carrot Extract. Panadol.
I sit there and push my memory and I'm like a system in another location. What's that soap? And I just like to be alive. Follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat, follow the beat. Follow the beat. Exercise your right to let their leaders. There was no need for coming to Uganda. I know how you operate. I know how you think. There are ways. What should I collect myself? If I am it's absolutely true. I admire President Museveni. Is the ICC the first code targeting African leaders? You cannot hear me. That the whole trouble Kenya had revolved about
the money is not in the budget of this country.
You can't be God. You should go to the folks. Look at Jeremiah chapter 31. The security of this country will largely depend on the contribution that the people make.
tugenda kutuuka gy'oyogere naffe ebikwata ku kyalo kyo embeera mw'okolera ebyobufuzi ebyobulamu n'ensonga endala nnyingi ebyogerwa tebiyita tuusa eddoboozi lyo yogera naffe buli lwakuna otereevu ku NTV akawungeezi.
On the next episode brought to you by
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
Mickey, tell this guy, when you get into the show, what about peace? Yeah, respect. Yeah, peace. Now, you have any question for me? Any question? Yeah, me or you? Yeah, you're gonna be you. Yeah, Uganda. Yeah, you. Okay. Yeah, we will start being a senator who shot in about business peace in Puya. Katolika Mulago, Tukomewo.
You black women, you are the reason why you cannot say, honey, rub your hands through my hair. And if you can say that, honey, rub your hands through my hair, and you try to rub and it's so smooth. Try it on a black girl. Especially in Uganda with this Indian hair. You rub your hands through her hair, it gets stuck. All you feel is pot.
You can download movies at the lowest prices and none of us from Orange. Dial *133# to buy a data bundle. Happy hour changes with Orange. Today changes with Orange.
You're watching Morning at NTV this Thursday, the day the World Cup begins. But before that, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm
You're
so
very excited. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I feel like the only one feeling the pressure of the World Cup. Because I'm not. In fact, I'm more on pressure for the budget than the World Cup.
I think being a business that could be one of those that government tightens its nose in terms of revenue collection.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And that bill that was supposed to come out, I don't know if it's
So we're going to pay 200,000 tomorrow, next year.
to practice, to do our job.
Hopefully Nation Media Group will pay for that. We'll take that bill because we don't do this job and take it to our houses. We bring it to Nation Media Group.
Sure. No, I would not have 6 kids. I always wanted to have a few kids. Probably manage anymore. We are 6 girls, by the way. Girls only.
And you wouldn't have 6.
I wouldn't have 6. And now at my age, I probably can't have 6.
You're just
science can help you have 15 if you want.
At what age?
At
40?
I share the neighbor's sentiments. 6 children? That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lifetime of making children. What else will you do?
His first born was 19 at the university.
You calculate that he had his first child at 25. By like 35, he had 6 kids in 10 years.
Okay, some of us are a bit behind schedule. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm not going to have 6 kids, but I'll make sure that the numbers in my home are big. Alright, moving on to sports.
She must be so scared now.
My earrings! Have you seen my beautiful earrings?
Yeah, they are England. They're the team that will get to the quarterfinals.
You believe? You have so much faith. I don't think they will move.
Yeah, get to the quarterfinals and get knocked out. It's that simple. That's England.
Yeah.
Let's talk more sport this morning. Isma, every day you have your list that you compile. And this morning we are starting with my favorite team. Yeah? We have always got some surprises. We always also go to the last 8, And 8 years ago, we depended a lot on Mulago.
Yeah.
Is he the same guy we're also depending on this year?
Just yesterday, Andre Pillow was offered a new contract by his club Juventus to keep playing for them, even if he's not a player probably was 8 years ago. But you've got to think that one of the things that is Italy's strength starts with an name with Pillow. He's not a player who needs a lot of energy to play. That's one thing that will work for the Italians. He's one player who will contribute without having to run. But the biggest fear for me is that recently, since they got to the Euro finals 3 years ago, Italy started to play with Pillow and Riccardo Montolivo in the midfield. Now Montolivo is not going to the World Cup because he's injured. So that means that Andre Pillow has to carry a lot of the burden on his shoulders. Especially at a time when probably their strikers don't inspire that much confidence. Yeah, he's had a very good season at Parma, but he's had a bit of weight problems. That will not help the Italians. So you've got to think that besides Mario Balotelli, they've got to look at where the goals are going to come from. Ciro Immobile has scored, been the top scorer in the Serie A for Torino. So that should help the Italians. But one of the things that you can't write, there are teams that can never write off in the World Cup. Italy is one of them. And there's a reason why they are 4-time Italian champions, even if they won the first World Cup back in 1930 and 1934. But when you never expect them to do anything, they came 8 years ago and won it out of nowhere. So you cannot just write off the Italians. Though I think they're going to come through an extremely tough group. And that group has England, Uruguay, and Costa Rica. So you get the feeling that the Italians need to get off a good start, especially in that game on Saturday against the English. If they
Why are we called the Azulus, by the way?
I've never actually found the reason. I've not been very good at finding the reason why every team has the kind of name, has the name, the nickname they take. With the exception of Selecao, for the Brazilians, because they call it the selection, the ultimate selection, and that is Selecao. But for the others, even if it were Argentina, which I do follow like a second religion, it's like even they, when I look at them being called the Pumas, I don't actually find the reason. I find the African names more interesting. Indomitable Lion, the Lions of Teranga, Bafana. I find it the desert fox, Uganda crane, something like that.
Well, another team that I used to like, France. Will the French this time turn up with a new World Cup winner?
They've got to first turn up for training because 4 years ago they refused to train in South Africa.
Still in the team, by the way?
No, he isn't. He's retired, long gone. But I have a feeling that one of the things they've got to do well, the French this time, they've got to just be a little bit more disciplined because, like I said, they have first turn up for training. When they were revolting against Raymond Dominic 4 years ago, Patrice Evra and Nicola Nelka led them out of the training camp and they refused to go to the pitch and work out. So that's one area they've got to look at. But I have a feeling that the French will do it. First of all, they are not in the toughest of groups. They have Switzerland as the biggest continent in their group. Now, after that, if you have Honduras on all the other side, it will be very disappointing if the French don't get through. But
the last time they didn't.
They didn't get
lost the first game.
And actually in 2002, the same thing, and that back in the day they were world champions. But one of the things that should work for them, they are going to the World Cup with some of their players in form. I see Karim Benzema has been playing some good football for Real Madrid. He's finally delivered on some of the promise. Antoine Griezmann at Real Sociedad. Paul Pogba at Juventus. Loro Koscielny for me probably was the best defender in the Premier League last season. So they go in the World Cup with so many things working in their favour. And then they won't have the same kind of revolt against Dominic like they did 4 years ago because a lot more faith in Didier Deschamps, the captain, when they won the World Cup back in 1998. So I am backing the French to go and do well in this World Cup. They may not win it, but they won't be as bad as 2010 or 2002.
I can tell you that Ribéry is obviously ready to show.
Actually, Ribéry also got injured this week in training, so won't be in Brazil. That is a bit of a letdown. They need some kind of contingency plan down the left. That's why I love the fact that throughout the practice games, Didier Deschamps decided to give Antoine Griezmann a lot of playing time because he needed a bit of support because Ribéry has struggled with injuries. One of them, which was an amazing one this season, he had an injury on his buttock and I just couldn't figure it out what exactly happened.
Alright, moving on. England involve a lot of debate, especially when it comes to World Cup. You know, they have one of the most successful leagues in the world. But
financially.
But even then, you know, I think it's very competitive, it's interesting to watch, but somehow the national team always fails to deliver.
One of the things that should probably relieve England from all the things that have happened to them in recent years, especially now that they last won the World Cup back in 1966, is that the English are not going into this World Cup with a lot of pressure. Normally they go into the World Cup having tipped themselves to be the favourites to win. I remember that back in 2002, I remember it in 2006. Now, I think reality has knocked on the English team's door. They don't go into the World Cup with the same kind of expectation of what they could achieve in Brazil. I think everyone is a lot more conservative about what the English would do. The English media, English fans like Mabel, they are not that enthusiastic thinking England would win the World Cup. And that should help. But all the things that Roy Hodgson should do is something that Capello probably didn't do 4 years ago. They were too defensive for my liking. And that didn't help the side. But then, also, on the other hand, I would love to see Roy Hodgson probably hand players who don't have a lot of garbage, probably burden on their back. Players who have not felt the failure of the English. Because for players like Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, they have a lot of scars and Wayne Rooney. Every time they fail, when something happens that they don't like, they'll start saying, here we go again. But there are players who have proved this run, they could probably do the job for England because they don't have that kind of burden. Adam Lallana, Ross Barkley, and Raheem Sterling for me. They should have minutes in that World Cup side. If they do, then probably that should help the English do something. They are very good defensively. It's about where the goals will come from. Welbeck doesn't guarantee you a goal probably in 5 years, but Rooney and Sterling probably should. But that can only happen if a guy is feeding him the ball, that is especially Barkley, Sterling and Lallana are given the playing time, which I have a feeling Roy Hodgson won't do. I'm waiting to see that game on Saturday what the English will do.
You talk about Rooney. Paul Scholes came out and said he's not worthy of a new contract. And this was a bit unfair at the start of a new thingy, a new game, a new season as well. And Rooney says Manchester United won't be happy about that. But do you think Rooney is past his prime, really?
I think Paul Scholes is living a lie. I don't think Wayne Rooney is past his best. He might have had performances that don't exactly augur to the Rooney of 2004. Because when he first broke through at the Euros, he went and scored 5 goals in the group stages. When he got injured, England were dumped. And I don't think he's past his best. I think
he has not played his best football, right?
Yeah, exactly. And because there's been a bit of a groin injury there. But I think a fit Rooney, I'd rather have a fit Rooney than any of the other 10 English players.
Wow. Well, what about...
Is it that bad?
Yeah.
But I think he's a great player. He plays back and defends, and he also attacks. So that's the kind of player you want at a World Cup.
I think the biggest problem for them is not about whether they can fall back. They need goals. Rooney doesn't score, just like Messi at the World Cup. Messi has 1 goal in the World Cup. So does Rooney.
Madam, you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble. Well, the opening game. Should we talk about that? Brazil and Croatia tonight. 11
p.m. kickoff. Just sit in front of your TV. I have a feeling every Brazilian will be extremely disappointed if they don't win the game. First of all, the side they will be playing, the Croatians, are not the toughest. Especially knowing that the Croatians don't even have their best team. Mario Mandzukic is out suspended. So is Daniel Pjanic. So the Croatians will be much weaker than they should have been. Because I'd love to see them with Ivan Rakitic, Luka Modric and Miralem Pjanic in that midfield. Now they don't have all those 3 players. So I have a feeling that for every Brazilian, anything less than 3 points would be a huge disappointment. It will feel like the World Cup has been won by Argentina, because that's something Brazil wouldn't want. If they don't beat Croatia tonight, it will feel like Messi is lifting the World Cup at the Maracana, which no Brazilian would want to see. I have a feeling that because of the consistency of the selection of the Brazilian side from the Confederations Cup last year, there is no reason why the Brazilians shouldn't win. Right. There is only 6 players from the team that played in the World Cup in 2010. 17 of them were playing at the World Cup for the very first time. And
what was that game? Uruguay?
Should be one of against Uruguay. It should be in the Copa America. No, it's against the French. Yeah, that's the old French jersey, the sky blue. Right. I've been feeling that there's only one position of debate in the Brazilian side, which is a good thing to have a consistent side. It's about the position of Oscar, because largely it will be the same players: Hulk, Neymar, Fred. You go back with Gustavo Paulinho, Thiago Silva, David Luiz, and all the others. So it's about just that one position, because Oscar hasn't played well for Chelsea at the end of the season, and the reason he wasn't playing well is because Willian had kept him out of the side. So it's just that one position. They're a lot more stable than many of the teams going into the World Cup, and they're playing at home. They'll be hard to beat. That stadium in Sao Paulo after the opening ceremony, where, by the way, J-Lo will be performing.
Yes, she
changed her mind, and she'll be performing. So after she bellows into the microphone, Brazil will go the game.
Can want Qatar. Now she
I think, does she know the kind of stage? Maybe she doesn't trust the South Americans too much or something.
Well, at 11 p.m., Brazil against Croatia, the biggest, I think, event of the year, the World Cup.
900 million viewers on television. Wow. Not even Obama gets that when he delivers his State of the Union address.
Yeah, because 500 of those don't like him. They want to go to the US and what was visa. So really, why should I like him? Well, Isma is going to be talking more World Cup at 1:30 p.m. with Lomansi and Alan. And remember, Sports Bar every Monday 10:30 p.m. The game starts at 11 p.m. All wives, please be informed. At 11, we shall be upset.
Why don't you watch it from your home?
The TV at home is
small. Watch it from your home.
All right, let's wait for your African program. Chris Mutiaba this morning giving us the African proverb, those who waste time only hurt themselves.
Yeah, procrastination. We talked about it, I think, some time back. It's a huge waste of potential. Yeah, so...
You're not hurting anyone when you don't do things in the right time. You're only hurting yourself.
I've had my fingers bad because of procrastination, so I'm slowly learning how to prioritize. You write everything and you tell yourself you must deliver, or you call someone, or you call someone and tell them by this week I must have accomplished this. If it doesn't happen, please hold me accountable. So that's how I'm overcoming it. But I've been a very, very huge victim of procrastination.
But sometimes it's not about time wasted. It's about your plans which bearing fruition at the time you want them to. Probably there are so many things I wish I would have done by this time of the year. But I still haven't. And it's not because I haven't tried. It's not about wasting time. I've hurt myself, but because of forces beyond me, because of probably my paycheck,
Sometimes I'm thinking my account has 2 ATM cards. I use one and then the money is a lot less. So.
Well, I think when I hosted the international speaker here, and he was talking about procrastination, he said those are some of the excuses we have by not doing the things we are supposed to do at the time we're supposed to do them. That's your food for thought today, and we want to leave you this morning. But a reminder that we shall be going live at the International Conference Center at 2 p.m. as Honorable Maria Chuanuka delivers the budget for the next financial year, 2014-2015. Please feel free to get onto our Facebook pages, NTV Uganda, and of course, Twitter at NTV Uganda, tag us at morning at NTV to get all the latest as far as that is concerned. Our comprehensive coverage will be coming to you live from our business desk and the news crew here at NTV. I want to say have a fantastic day and make sure that tonight you stay safe, you watch the World Cup, go home, don't drink and drive, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
NTV, turning on your world.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
At Orange, we know you want to do more on the internet. That's why we bring you happy hour day and night.
では手放しで乗れるほどの腕前になりました小学校4年生沖山義彦。ホッピングとヨーヨーが得意というここは一つのポイントです。